This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, after which Alderman Vaughn would like to lead us in a word of prayer, and we will observe a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Our God and our Father and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Again, Father God, here's a few of your handmaid servants, the mayor of the board and the department heads. We come before you again to handle these affairs of the city. First of all, Lord, we ask you to forgive us of all our sins, to make us worthy to stand, to do what the job that we was elected to do. We ask you, Father God, that you would just bless every decision that we make, and every decision that we make will glorify you and our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But we thank you for Jesus, Lord, who came into the world and died for the sins and the sickness of the world. Died that we all could have eternal life when this life is abundant life, when this life is over. We thank you for being that great God. Now we ask you that you will fill this place with your spirit. Lord, we ask you that you would bless each and every last one of us, individually, collectively, and one by one. But whatever decision that we make, Father, that we will honor one another's decision. We thank you so much for blessing us and allowing us to be elected to stand before you to do what we are doing. We thank you so much for all the infrastructure that you allowed the city and this board to approve. We thank you. We thank you for the direction that you are taking us in. And we pray, Father God, that we will stay on the straight and narrow path. And at the end of the day, we will look to the hills from which come all our help. We know all our help come from you. We thank you for being our God and we're your servant. Thank you for being our Father and we're your little children. But most of all, we thank you for controlling our destiny, not leaving us in the hand of no man. We give praise and honor and glory to you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
You have before you the written agenda. Are there any proposed changes to the written agenda? Alderman Webb.
Page 5. And I will be requesting on page 5, and I will be requesting that all of these items be placed on the board business, starting at J. J will remain as it is. On page 4, under engineering number 1, place that on the board business, label it as item K.
All right, so the proposed change would be item 11D1, reorder the agenda to make that item 10K. And that is the approval for Cody Burnett to participate in the Educational Assistance Program for the fall 2016 semester.
It is.
Is that correct?
Yes,
All right. Do you have multiple items?
I do.
All right. Please continue.
Okay. Number 2 becomes L under board business.
All right. That is the request for approval to accept the low quote from Welding Works in the amount of $7,500.
Yes.
All right. Proceed.
Okay. Number 3 will become M under board business.
That is the request for approval to accept the low quote from Stidham Construction.
Yes.
All right. Proceed.
Okay. Number 4 will become N under board business.
That is a request for authorization to perform asphalt repairs and overlay on Daniels Drive at a cost not to exceed $7,000.
Yes.
All right, proceed.
And on page 6, as that turns into finance and administration, number 3 will become O under board business.
All right, that is a request for authorization to name Cadence Bank as municipal depository.
Yes.
All right, proceed.
Under parks, number 1 would become P under board business.
That is the discussion and consideration of approval for Herman Peters to attend the National Park and Recreation Convention.
Yes.
All right, proceed.
Number 2 would become Q under board business.
All right, that is the consideration of approval for William Pocup to attend the Mississippi Park and Recreation Convention September 19th through 21st.
Yes.
All right.
Under
Proceed.
personnel, number 1 would become I under board, number 1 would become R under board business.
All right, that is the request for approval of the temporary pay increase per personnel policy for fire department employee Michael Edwards.
Yes.
All right, proceed.
Okay. And number 1 under police department would become S under board business.
That is the discussion and consideration of allowing Chief R. Frank Nichols to attend the Southern Criminal Justice Association conference on September 7th through 10th.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
proceed.
And the last 2 items are number 1 and number 2 under utilities department. Number 1 would become T under board business.
That's a request for authorization for Starkville Utilities to accept the lowest and best proposal by MBR Construction,
Yes.
and the request for approval for Starkville Utilities to sell 3/4 inch and 1 inch scrap water meters.
Yes.
All right, so the proposed revision from Alderman Nguyen is to place the following items, beginning with item K under board, to reorder the agenda, placing the following items under board business, beginning with item K in descending order. What was previously item 11D1, item 11D2, item 11D3, item 11D4, item 11E3, item 11H1, item 11H2, item 11I1, item 11J1, item 11L1, and item 11L2. Alderman Nguyen, is that your proposed revision?
Yes.
Do I hear an objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, the agenda has been reordered. Please note the change.
Okay, and I have one more. Okay,
Right.
my last one is on page number 4, and that is item number F. Modifying that a little bit, and I have it in written form, and I will pass it down for the city clerk. Consideration and approval of adjusting the hourly rate of pay to $10 an hour for firemen, sanitation and environmental service personnel, and street department personnel effective Wednesday, August 17th, 2016.
All right, so that would add street department personnel to the existing item?
Yes.
All right. So the proposed revision from Alderman Nguyen is to add street department personnel to item 10F. Is there any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, please note the change. Alderman Nguyen, do you have further proposed revisions?
Those are all of my changes at this time. Thank you.
Any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Alderman Little.
Under mayor's business, item 9, D, E, and F, I'd ask that these be tabled.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Little, or actually it's a motion from Alderman Little, is to table items D, E, and F, and that proposal is to table without debate, so it will require a 2/3 approval. It's not debatable. We have 6 tonight, so that would require a vote of 4 in favor. And those are the consideration of approval of expanding the job duties of Vicki Hampton, consideration of approval of expanding the job duties of Joanna Beelan, and consideration of the approval of a salary adjustment and job title change from administrative assistant to the fire chief. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. It's not debatable. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. The vote is 3-3, so it does not pass. All right, are there any further proposed revisions to the agenda? Alderman Walker.
Under board business, I'd like to remove item 10C from the agenda.
Proposed revision from Alderman Walker is to remove item 10C from the agenda. That's the discussion and consideration of the request PP 16-10 for preliminary plat approval. And Mr. Sanders, is it correct that the applicant asked for that matter to be removed from the agenda?
Yes, sir.
All right, Alderman Walker, is that your proposed revision?
Yes.
Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that item's been removed from the agenda. Alderman Walker, do you have further proposed revisions?
No.
further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Are there any further proposed revisions from the members of the board? Any further proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as revised? Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as revised?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter before you is a consideration of the minutes of the
Move
July.
approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Little to approve the minutes of the July 26, 2016 meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, incorporating any and all changes as recommended by the city attorney, otherwise as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is announcements and comments by the mayor and members of the board, and I have several this evening. First, I would like to make a commendation that is listed on your board agenda, and I would ask for Battalion Chief Stuart Byrd, Lieutenant Brian Arnett, and Sergeant Justin Edwards to please come forward. The Starkville Fire Department has 3 members, Lieutenant Brian Arnett, Battalion Chief Stuart Byrd, and Sergeant Justin Edwards, who have been chosen to be a part of the Mississippi Task Force team. This team will operate as a FEMA Type 3 team. A Type 3 team consists of 35 members and responds as a search and rescue team, capable of handling any natural or man-made disasters within the United States border. This includes locating individuals, terrorist attacks, bombs, hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, mine collapses, etc. To be considered for membership on this team, you must be trained as a specialist in overland search and rescue, technical rope rescue, confined space rescue, swift flood water rescue, trench rescue, structural collapse rescue, hazardous material, and emergency medical care. If you live in Starkville, you can take pride and comfort in knowing that this elite team of search and rescue specialists has 3 members from the Starkville Fire Department who are trained and ready to save lives. This 35-member team should be considered as the Navy SEALs of search and rescue. Please join me in congratulating these 3 gentlemen. Job well done.
Thank you, sir.
Next, I'd like to introduce our new intern in the fire department, Mr. Cornelius Hickman. Cornelius Hickman is from Sessoms, Mississippi, and is a graduate of Starkville High School. He previously worked as a mechanic helping his grandfather. Cornelius is the son of Wendy and Christopher Hickman. In his spare time, Cornelius enjoys football, basketball, and track. He is presently taking karate. Cornelius also enjoys playing with his pit bull, Zeus. Please join me in welcoming Cornelius Hickman to the city. And finally, I would like to congratulate the police department collectively on an award and Chief Nichols individually on an award. First of all, hopefully later this evening you are going to be approving travel for Chief Nichols to go to Savannah, Georgia. I wanted to make sure the board and the public understands the gravity of the occasion that he will be traveling to. He'll be traveling to receive an award from the Southern Criminal Justice Association. he has been named by that prestigious body as the Outstanding Professional of the Year. And that award recognizes a practitioner in the field of criminal justice for outstanding contributions each and every year. So we are very, very proud that we will be represented by our own Chief Nichols, who will be receiving the top award at that conference. Please join me in congratulating him. Finally, I would like to congratulate Chief Nichols' department in that a couple of days ago we received some really good news, and that is we were one of 8 cities that were selected by the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Foundation of Mississippi for the Healthy Heroes Grant. And this is a grant program that is designed to encourage police officers to build education programs for health and wellness to take into the local schools. Now, the exciting thing for the community is our local school children are going to be exposed to new health and wellness tips and training techniques from our police officers. The exciting thing for our police force is that this grant will also fund approximately $35,000 of new exercise equipment, which will go into the new police headquarters. So congratulations and job well done, Chief. That concludes my comments this evening. Are there any comments by the members of the board? Alderman Wynn.
Okay. I need to address some questions and some calls that I received from many of the residents of my ward. And not only that, for the many family members that I have that are also city residents, regarding an agenda item that had an increase for one of our city employees, and it was regarding the vice mayor being in that agenda item. Some of my constituents wanted to know what was the difference between alderman versus vice mayor, because we use that term. Actually, here in our state, that term is actually mayor pro tem, and we dub it as vice mayor. And I just want to read you a statement, and I hope that it will provide some clarity of the difference between alderman and the title as vice mayor. Ms. Isaac is in the crowd tonight. Will you raise your hand, Ms. Isaac? Thank you so much. You were one of the people who called me in regards to this and wanted some clarification. And for the record, you represent Ward 6, am I correct? Thank you so much. The city of Starkville has an elected body of 7 aldermen that represent areas that are referred to as a ward. For each of us, our duties and power is the same. There is no difference. However, one alderman has the title of mayor pro tem during the term of this board. That alderman is Alderman Perkins. This title was bestowed upon him by the members of the board on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2013. In the role of mayor pro tem, he is not afforded any additional power. If in the event the mayor is not able to serve due to health or a crisis-related matter, the alderman with this title of vice mayor would preside in the role as mayor of acting mayor. At the board meeting, he would preside as acting mayor and only possess a vote in the event of a tie. He would not possess a vote on any measures which would result in a tie. This would actually mean that he wouldn't possess any power by vote. He would also manage the day-to-day operations. However, the members of the board would continue to employ powers entrusted to them according to state law. For example, no manager of day-to-day operations of our city has the authority to terminate an employee or appoint an employee or appoint someone to a position for our city. Just because the mayor is out of town or out of state, this does not give the vice mayor any powers. To be clear on this topic, I will read the AG opinion, and I requested this from council to be clear on this. The statute states that the Board of Aldermen shall elect from among its members a mayor pro tem who shall serve in the place of the mayor in cases of temporary absence or disability of the mayor. So the key phrase is temporary absence or disability, Mississippi Code annotated 21-3-13. The Mississippi Supreme Court has stated that the test is not whether the mayor has left the state, but whether the mayor is physically absent from the jurisdiction in a way that prevents him from performing his duties as mayor. Scott versus Stater, 707 SO 2D 182, Mississippi, 1997. The Mississippi AG has opined that this rule means that in order for the mayor pro tem powers to be triggered, a mayor must be absent from a jurisdiction in such a matter so as to prevent the mayor from performing the duties of the office. Ultimately, that is a factual determination for the mayor and members of the board to make. As residents of my ward and to many family members that are city residents, I hope that this will provide clarity. Several of you became concerned and expressed concern after the August 2nd board meeting due to a board measure that has a costly amount regarding the vice mayor. Okay. On another subject matter that I would like to speak to, Daniel Haviland of our building department, I requested some information from him on Thursday, August 11th, because I want to speak to the continued growth of our city, that many aldermen, as one, expressed concern about the slow growth, or maybe the growth may be slowing down in our city. And I got that information from him, and it is about 4 pages, and it certainly speaks to this is the place that people want to be in our city. And I'll just go over a couple of those with you. Laurel Point will be a new residential development going in Ward 4. There's Village Crossing, which is where the bowling alley was located. That will become a fitness center. Bargain Hunt will be located there, and Total Look will remain there as well. There will be a new sidewalk that will start at the red light of Louisville Street, and it will extend down to the Emerson Family Center. On Friday, August 5th, I met with former Alderman Jeremiah Dumas and members of MDOT, and we discussed that along with Mrs. Joan Butler, Dr. Butler of the Emerson Family Center. The groundbreaking on that should take place on next year. And the last that I would like to share with you, because I represent Ward 2, where Dirt Cheap is, that area will soon be called Chestnut Commons, as they will do an expansion and 2 retailers will be in that area. So those are just some of the things that we're doing in our city. And again, it's about 3 pages and it's nonstop, and I'm proud to be a part of it. My last one is this. If you live along Lynn Lane in that area, there's Starkville Christian School, and up until this year, the traffic was so congested. I met with the headmaster there along with our city engineer, and we addressed a concern that he had along with Alderman Carver, whose son attends that school. And I'm glad to say with the city engineer's help, Alderman Carver and members of the board, that we've got that matter addressed by creating some additional space over there to get the cars off of the street. And that work was done by none other than Mr. Charlie Hester, and I'm proud of the work that he has done in my ward. Thank you so much, members of the board. Mayor, I yield the floor at this time.
Are there further comments by the members of the board? Further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. I want to recognize Mayor Wiseman, Vice Mayor Perkins, Alderman Vaughn,
Thank you, Alvin.
and Alderman Cobb. It's time that this trying to destroy this board stops. We did not elect people to try to destroy each other. We elected to hold us in the city together, not to destroy, not to overreach your responsibility. We have the NACP here. If anyone tries to be more than what they are. And we also would like for the Jefferson Street to be looked at. The 3 hair establishments have handicapped people, and they have trouble trying to get them in and out of the establishment. Chief Nichols, I was also would like for you to talk to Mom to try to get her she's still kind of at loose ends about my brother, and also if you would explain to us about this open container drinking law, that we will understand what it all means, please.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Further citizen comments?
My name is Suleiman Ali, a citizen, and Roy Perkins is my alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Suleiman.
I'm here because of a complaint that I made to Alderman Perkins about 2 years ago, and also the city engineer also visited my neighborhood. It's a destruction of my property as well as water standing in the neighborhood, and mostly concerned because of the Zika virus, and I would like to lay a formal complaint so that something could be done. And my alderman is also aware of it. I have some documentations here that I would like to pass to the.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Kemp, Younger Kemp, will you come up here just a moment, please, sir? Mr. Sula, good evening. Mr. Kemp and I were over on your street probably 7 calendar days ago. Is that about a correct statement, Mr. Kemp? And Mr. Suley, I brought that again, to Mr. Kemp's attention, and we looked at it, and I asked him to give another cost estimate on that. And of course, at this point, there are no available funds for my ward as to the drainage project. But Mr. Kemp, just briefly address, Mr. Kemp, what we saw, what we discovered. You and I rode over there together about less than 7 calendar days. And we were looking for Mr. Suley, but he was not home. Would you brief the board and Mr. Suley on that, if you may, Mayor?
Mr. Ali and Mayor and members of the board, the Vice Mayor and I did ride over and visit the property located off Central Avenue. It's a existing drainage creek, I guess, maybe I don't know if that's the right term, drainage ditch. It's an area that drains a considerable amount of property and area, and eventually goes to the north through Santa Anita, eventually goes under North Montgomery, and out toward the Trotter Lane area. But this particular section of creek has experienced pretty significant erosion within the last few years, and it is currently on our capital improvement drainage improvement plan. We just went out to visit to look at its current condition, and we will be working over the next week or so, 10 days, to come up with some updated cost estimates of different alternatives to address the erosion and the issues that is experiencing right now.
Thank you, Mr. Kemp.
Thank you, Mr. Ali. Further citizen comments?
Mayor, Alderman, Sullivan, my name is Michael Sullivan. I live at 110 Crossgate Street in Starkville. Ben Carver is my alderman. He's not here tonight, so I've been talking to Alderwoman Lisa Wynn on this matter. This is concerning the Academy Sports coming in behind our house and the rerouting of Hollywood Boulevard behind our house. As of Thursday, I was informed that not only would we be getting an Academy Sports behind our home, we would also be getting the extension of Hollywood Boulevard 10 feet off of our property line, running parallel with the homes on Crossgate Street, with no fence and no evergreen tree sound buffer. We were expecting the Academy Sports, but we were not expecting the rerouting of Hollywood Boulevard behind our home. This was really discouraging news for my family as well as for most of the residents of Crossgate Street and Crossgate Subdivision. Hollywood Boulevard has the potential to become a major thoroughfare for traffic cutting through from Starkville Road to Highway 12. It will eventually become congested with traffic, morning drive time, afternoon drive time, and any time the theater lets out, which is often between 11 p.m. and midnight several nights a week. There will be loud trucks, loud motorcycles, loud voices, loud stereos. Currently, if I stand 10 feet behind my fence, behind our home, I can see directly over the existing fence, and that picture that I passed up there will show that. I can see into both of my daughter's bedroom windows. I can see into our dining room. And this, I'm 6 foot tall, so the fence is sitting a little bit lower than 6 foot, but you can see directly into our backyard. If there is no tree buffer and privacy fence between us and this new development, the noise will become a problem, and we will lose all of our privacy, and our house and our backyard will be open for all to see. Most importantly, we have a special needs daughter who has very delicate health issues. She's very, very medically fragile. Okay. She's in a wheelchair, she's legally blind, and she requires several medications daily to survive. Loud noises and stress cause her to have terrible seizures. Her little body doesn't handle any kind of change very well at all. We do our absolute best to keep her comfortable and to control her environment. We've just finished doing a special needs addition on the back side of our home to accommodate her needs. That was a 2-year project, and we just finished it recently. The noise from Hollywood Boulevard behind our house will absolutely have a negative effect on her health and her well-being. Absolutely. I've seen it. Hollywood Boulevard running directly behind our home with no privacy fence and no sound barrier is a potential threat to our security, our privacy, our home's value, and our daughter's health and well-being. I'm asking that the mayor, the Board of Aldermen, the City of Starkville, and Mr. Mike Rozier Construction please consider erecting an 8-foot privacy fence as well as a tall, dense evergreen tree buffer to help with the situation. I've been on the phone and met with the mayor, most of the aldermen, the alderwoman. They've all been very helpful, very courteous, and they all seem to show a genuine concern for my family and for the residents of Crossgate subdivision, and I appreciate that. I'd like to thank God for his provision and for always making a way, and I'd like to thank all of you for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Further citizen comments?
Mr. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, my name is Greg Carter, and I live right next door to Mr. Sullivan. And we're united in this matter as a community, as a neighborhood. We're concerned about that street running so close to the back of our houses. And we're not trying to discourage city growth. We're not trying to discourage businesses coming into the city. But at the same time, we do want to maintain more privacy and not have the inconvenience of that street running so closely behind our property without any types of sound barriers, any type of fencing, anything like that. I know when Walmart moved in, they put 2 fences up. They have a chain link fence right next to that drainage ditch that you can't even see because they have a large privacy fence next to their parking lot. So if Walmart can make some accommodations for our neighborhood, we don't think it'd be too hard for any other business to do it on the other side of the street. I know you guys will take careful consideration of this matter. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Carter. Further citizen comments?
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thank you for seeing us this afternoon. I too live in that neighborhood. My name is Marie Portera. While we are delighted to have the growth in this city, we are very concerned about the privacy that we have. And following up with Mr. Mike Sullivan, I especially understand, I work for Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation, and we work with people with special needs a lot. And any of you that could put yourself into his shoes or our shoes and think about your family, your children, your grandchildren, I'm certain that you would understand while we're here asking you all, please to understand that we just want the privacy, and certainly there's something that can be done to help us out here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Patera. Further citizen comments?
Mr. Mayor, Board, Alderwoman, I just want to echo the comments. My name's Dallas Breen. I'm in Ward 1 as well. I live just down the street from the individuals who spoke before. I think it's fantastic that the city is looking to grow, to expand, to get this retail business in. I just ask, almost beg, that you take into consideration safety. I have a 5-year-old son. That proposed street has a curve, which essentially puts my house directly in the line of someone going around that curve at high levels, high speeds. And with nothing to protect it but our fence, I'm concerned that one day I'll go outside and find a car inside my backyard, and God forbid anybody in that backyard. That said, I understand that there's been some discussions, and I hope that we can find some way to alleviate these privacy and safety concerns. And I appreciate your input and your feedback. So Alderman Carver isn't here. I also want to say on the record, for citizen comments, I appreciate his willingness to get back in touch with us in a quick manner, and also with Alderwoman Wynn. So thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Breen. Further citizen comments?
Nobody else, I'm trying to get up, so I'll be here back a little first and be done again. Because Bob's gonna ring the bell on me anyway. Hello,
You get 3
everybody
minutes.
today. I'm just saying all of y'all, all of you my Aldermen, because I don't have no specialty scene, although I do stay in my ward, you know, I don't have no specialty scene. But I would just like to say to each and every one of y'all, the reason I asked the question was because I want to know, this is a great jump, you know, that we'll be playing the secretary. I'm concerned about the workers also in Starkville. I'm concerned about them. They can't get raises. I mean, you know, they got raises, but they didn't get a certain percent of raises. These people have lives too to live. Firemen go out and fight fire. It's really extraordinary, you know, to pay that much money. And I know Captain over there, he do his whole work himself, you know. And I'm just concerned about that. I'm just concerned about that. But I'll call any of y'all that give them time to ask anything that I want to know. But I'm just concerned about how the money that's coming and how it's going to be sorted out. A secretary is good. Yeah, a secretary is good. But I mean, you know, a little expensive. I want to be one too, I guess. I can be one. I want to be one to get paid too like that. But I'm just really upset about that. You know, it making me upset. And I just like to say it. And I would just like to say to Mr. Vaughn over there, I would like to say, overseeing the park and helping on the park and Harmon back in the back that you have with his crew. They do a very good job. We had a day on the park at our church, and the park was just outstanding on the west side. I don't know why everybody says the bag is part and, you know, bag is part. Park here. But I just want y'all to know that it's not the baddest. Okay? I hear Parker saying how much time y'all think.
You still have 1 minute.
Okay. Just took one, let me talk again. Okay, and I just would like to thank y'all for the job that you do, and thank you for all the insight that you do. Put it on the insight, put it on about what's the duties and all that, so we'll know what the duties are. Thank you for looking that up for me. I really thank you. Thank you, Chief.
You're more than welcome, Ms.
Thank you.
Hines.
Thank you.
Y'all doing a good job too. If you wasn't, I would be up here. So you're doing a good job for all of it. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Isaac, you got 40 seconds.
Well, how you know,
40 seconds is what the clerk told me.
But I would just like to say in that time, I would just like to say I came to y'all with some concerns, remember, about the handicap. You know, about doing, we gotta do more for our handicapped people here in the city of Starkville. I got drunk coming up with a limp ride, so I didn't, don't rush, but I got drunk coming up there. So I would just like to say to each and every one of y'all, you know, everything, just like I said, Elmer back there, the other part. I would just like to say, give them some help on the trash bag.
You got it all that time, Ms. Isaac.
Good evening, Mayor and Aldermen. I'm Donna Ballard, and I live in Crossgate Street area too. The proposed new road would come right behind my house as well. I live at 204 Crossgate. And I would like to ask, is it possible to move the road on the other side, like the east side along the back of all of the other commercial properties? It seems like a road would be more suitable along all the commercial properties instead of all the residential properties. As it ends up, if it goes this way, we're going to have a road in front of our house and a road right behind our house. So how many of you have a road behind your house and in front that blocks your front yard and your backyard? I don't like that. I don't mind the business being there, even though it's going to be close, but I would prefer, if possible, I don't know about the land and the engineering, etc., if the road could be moved on the east side instead of the west side along all of the residents. So that was the part that I wanted to put in about Crossgate, and I appreciate the job you do, and I appreciate everyone giving us the opportunity to speak up and to listen to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Further citizen comments?
Mayor and Alderman. My name is Tad Ballard. I'm also living in the Starkville, in the Crossgate subdivision area. My property is not directly in the area that we're talking about where the new business is going. I live actually on the Walmart side, and I can tell you from experience with living next to the Walmart parking lot that privacy fence really makes a difference. It really cuts down on the noise. It doesn't eliminate it, but it does help a lot. So I would hope that y'all will listen to our concerns and hopefully maybe talk to the contractor and make sure our concerns are voiced, that at the very least we're asking for a privacy fence and or trees for a sound barrier. But as the one that just was before me mentioned, the most ideal solution I think that would please everyone in the community the most would be to move that proposed road to the east side of the new building instead of on the west side right next to our property. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ballard. Further citizen comment? Are there any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, the next matter before us is public appearances, and we have 2 public appearances tonight. We actually, this is not the first time this has happened, we neglected to put Dr. Wall's action item on the agenda. She's coming on behalf of the Humane Society to ask for the insert to be placed in the electric department utility bills, as we do each and every year. So I'll ask her to come forward. Dr. Wall, you'll have a maximum of 10 minutes, and then at the conclusion of her presentation, I would ask y'all to be thinking about whether you would like to approve the utility insert. Dr. Wall?
Mayor Wiseman, Board of Aldermen, thank you for being here and listening to my request for approval. I believe in your packet you're supposed to have the flyer that will be inserted in utilities, electric bills. Just since I'm here and it's being covered, I'd like to point out a few things. Up at the top, it indicates where the ordinances are that this one is acting upon. We have a section, things you should know. One is that all cats and dogs should have rabies vaccinations. We have a pet owner's responsibilities, and that includes like constant clean drinking water, and your provision that you have that we've really been, the animal control officers have really been acting on, and that is adequate shelter protection from the elements, and that includes dogs and cats left in cars. So that is being acted on under that. Registration of dogs. I process the registration of dogs, and it's an annual registration, and they have to provide proof of current rabies vaccination, which is to the community's benefit, whether you own a dog or not. Any city dogs are to be registered. The money that you had the ordinance for this to do is for us to publicize the ordinance and to care for the humane treatment of animals, spay, neuter, help too. Part of the registration money does go towards the computer we have at the shelter, which has the licenses information. And yes, we work on Saturday, vets usually don't, and a license number may be called in to us, and we can let them know who the owner is and get that animal returned even on a Saturday. And so the rabies tag that the vet has is good, but it doesn't always cover getting an animal back to the owner. So, and then at the bottom we have definition of dangerous animals. Now that's helpful for people to realize that they have a way of contacting animal control if there's a situation that would fit under that dangerous animal situation, so that the community is safer. So I really appreciate you listening to me. I hope that we can send this out again. We do it in January when the population changes. I'd like to do it in September. I have talked to Mr. Kemp, and he's aware and okay with having that insert performed. And recently I was told that some apartment complexes now people don't pay their electric bill. So we have started taking these flyers to the place where they pay their regular monthly bill, so they're gonna be available to them too. Thank you for considering this request. Do you have any questions?
Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Wall? Any questions or comments? Do I hear a motion to?
I just want to say, Dr. Wall, thank you very much for the hard work that you and others do for the Humane Society. It provides a huge service for our community, and just thank you very much. And with that, Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the insert in the electric bill for January,
September.
for September.
Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve of allowing an insert to be placed in Starkville utility bills for September of 2016 by the Oktibbeha County Humane Society. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wall. Our next public appearance is by Debbie Thomas for JMG Jobs.
Good afternoon, Mayor, and to the board. This is new to me, so first let me introduce myself. My name is Debbie Thomas. I'm the job specialist at Starkville High School. I also served as assistant principal at Starkville High School for 10 years, retired in the summer of 2015, and decided that because an opportunity arose to work as a job specialist through the Jobs for Mississippi Graduates, I took that position on July 1st of 2015. So I appreciate you all hearing me out as I explain my appeal. All right, why is it that I considered this position or appeal to you for the position as job specialist? I saw that many of the parents, those that I served when I served as administrator, needing financial services. I don't mind being an advocate for children, especially those who have needs and need resources, especially if there's a demand where there are opportunities where I can seek those resources out. Starkville School District has allowed me to stay in this position or stay in the school where I'm able to give some guidance as well as reprimand and sometimes correct students with their behavior. And again, that's just the admin in me. I don't think that I'll ever lose that. And also being able to give back to the school and the community that's helped me. This is my second year being a job specialist at Starkville High School. I also enjoy seeing the glow on many of the students that I serve can stand before me and say what their goals or what their career goals are. But it saddens me that many of them aren't sure what they want to do, and that is maybe to the fault of many of us as educators who have not taken the opportunity to ask them and to inquire or even expose. And then it may be the fault of students too, who may just not have had the time or even to think the thought out as to what they want to do. Background and the essence of JMG. It is a nonprofit organization chaired by Governor Phil Bryant. The subsidiary of our national organization is JAG, Jobs for America's Graduates. The underlining goal of the program is to assist students in graduating from high school. Having a plan of action after graduation is the next goal, whether it's to be a job, college, or military. JMG is designed to give students exposure, especially from guest speakers, to share their career interests. Field trips, college, university, museums, job sites is used to increase awareness. Community service is to give back to the town in which we support, and that's what our students are structured to do, to give at least 10 hours back. The curriculum consists of the JMG curriculum consists of assisting students in building leadership skills, dressing appropriately for job interviews, filling out job and college applications, becoming skillful communicators. And I had two of my students, even today, we had an assignment where they were running for president of the organization of a career association. And our students from the class suggested that they give speeches in order to nominate a candidate. And they were able to nominate one, and the other we just automatically placed as vice president. And I thought that was very pleasing, especially in the conditions with the upcoming nominations of presidents that we have. Solving problems, managing conflict, making effective decisions is also a part of the curriculum, as well as working hard and upholding work ethic. The The demographic and makeup of my class consists of juniors and seniors. The academic divide is 25% from the top, 50% from the middle, and 25% from the bottom. The racial makeup is mixed with both Caucasian and African American students. Hopefully that will change because we would like to incorporate more ethnicities, because part of what we do is cultural diversity of the curriculum that we share, and we would like to incorporate more students. The gender breakdown from last year was about 3/4 of young men, and this year we're closer to a 50-50 split. The career choices, especially with this class today, range from auto mechanic to being a plastic surgeon. My appeal to you today is the following: a financial support to create a scholarship fund to give to those students, especially my seniors, who will pursue post-secondary education or enlist in the military, as well as those who will go into the world of work. The plan will be to give those students who will be attending a college, university, or military a stipend of $1,000. Those who go straight to the world of work will be awarded 1/4 of that amount, $250, to prepare for a job with appropriate, that may choosing to use for appropriate dress attire, briefcase, or the like. The bottom line: your support will show our students that you care. You believe in them, and they will become productive citizens. I have pamphlets here that I would like to give, and it gives a bird's eye view of JMG as well as contact information. Some of our local supporters are Vowels, Food Market, Flex Steel, Clark Coca-Cola Company, and a few of the local restaurants. And due to the ages of my students, because most of the restaurant serves alcohol, they aren't able to work there, or the establishment has alcohol on its premises. I would like to thank you for your time, and also would like to say if there are any questions that you would like to ask me about our program, I'll be glad to answer that if there is time for that. And I do have the pamphlets. And I want to say, Mayor, thank you again for serving as inductee, or proceeding over the induction program for our I&I ceremony on last year. And in the pamphlet, we do have pictures of you, sir. And we've used these pamphlets for solicitations for businesses throughout Starkville to let them know about our program, as well as bring about awareness and sponsorships.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Are there any questions or comments?
Ms. Thomas, I want to thank you for what you're doing. It's
Thank you, sir.
a much-needed skill set that we need to provide each and every graduate coming out. The understanding and ability of the skills and abilities needed to be successful in the workplace, whether they go straight from high school or whether they continue on to community college or four-year school. One of the things I think would also be beneficial is to help educate the employers on opportunities that are out there for these students, and also grant and salary match opportunities for training that's available as well to many of them. So thank you again for everything that you're doing.
Thank you, sir.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you all so much.
All right, the next matter you have before you, I don't think it's actually a public hearing, although it's listed under the public hearing heading. Spencer, are we to have another public hearing tonight, or is the action item just to approve the minutes?
Just to approve the minutes. We had the public hearing on August the 11th at 5:30.
All right, would you like to summarize the public hearing? They have the minutes in their packet.
The public hearing was at 5:30 on August the 11th here at City Hall. Unfortunately, we did not have many people attend other than staff members there. We would have gone over all of the information for the home application, but those minutes that we would have gone over have to be adopted by the board as part of the official minutes for the city.
So it is a prerequisite of the program in order for us to be able to make an application as a community that these minutes be approved. Do I hear a motion? Alderman Mayor.
Spencer, would you briefly explain this program?
Briefly explain the program. This year it has changed completely. They are looking at census data for where to locate, and I don't have a map with me, but that is, I believe, in the Ward 6 and Ward 7 areas are the ones that qualify the most. They are wanting us to do more along the lines of rehabilitation for homes this year instead of reconstruction to make the money go further. We are in the process of a phase 1 application right now. Phase 1 is just passing the resolutions that the board passed back in July, holding the public hearing, and then we submit an application saying, hey, we think that we can find up to 8 units in this area. They will rate those applications based off of the percentage that are in those wards. You'll receive 15 points in that category because of the percentage of the census information there. The maximum is 25 points. The other thing is if you've never had a home program, you could get 25 points there. Starkville has received a home program in the past, so you'll get 15 points in that category. And then letters of support from different community organizations. We do have 3 letters there, so you'll get the full 25 points in that category. You also had a minority contractor on the other home project, so you'll get points there based off of minority business participation in the last program. Those points will then be added and they will be rated with the rest of the applications, phase 1 applications that are received. If it rates high enough, then a phase 2 application will be invited. We don't know what's going to be involved in the phase 2 application this year. Those applications, we should know something, I would hope, by the first part of September. They want them due around October the 28th, I believe, is the date that they have due for phase 2. If a phase 2 is invited, that's when we'll be looking for homeowners. So at this point, we are not looking for homeowners at this point. But that being said, if you are out in the area and see a home that could possibly do, kind of jot down the address, and if a phase 2 is invited, then we can definitely take a look at that. If a phase 2 is invited, we are looking for homeowners who own their property, can't have any mortgages, no liens, no taxes, or anything due to the city, garbage bills, things like that can be due on the property. No lease property. It also can't be heir property. It has to be owned outright. And they have to have lived there at least a year and have utilities in their name that they can provide a utility statement for at least a year.
Thank you. Mayor, I move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the minutes of the August 11, 2016 public hearing of the City of Starkville Home Grant Program. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes.
Thank you.
The next matter you have before you is a discussion and consideration of authorization for the mayor to execute a construction easement per Mississippi Department of Transportation's request as part of the Highway 12 project.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to authorize the mayor to execute a construction easement per Department of Transportation's request as part of the Highway 12 project as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of a deed conveying property from Starkville to Osita, currently leased to the Sitel LLC.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the deed conveying property from Starkville to Osita, currently leased to Sitel LLC as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter?
Mayor, you want to give us a brief history on that?
Yeah, this is the back end of an industrial development project. So y'all have dealt around the front end of industrial development projects where typically there is an ask by a company, and we have parameters within state law of certain local incentives that we can provide. One of the incentives that was provided in this project was the city and the county effectively funded the building of the building on the property. And city attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, the way the transaction was structured is it was on a piece of Osita property. Originally, all of the research park was held by Osita, and Osita held the title in fee simple, and the city and the county had an encumbrance on the property while they paid back the debt, the $2.8 million that it cost to build the building. We have just completed that 15-year repayment period, so there's no longer any debt owing by the city and the county on the property, and the agreements call for that property now to be the encumbrance to be lifted so that OCEDA can ultimately convey title to the property to Sitel.
That's substantially correct.
Okay. So the long and the short of it, I think the most important thing to know is this is exactly the way the agreement was supposed to function from day one. We were always scheduled to be relinquishing our encumbrance on the building at such time when the debt was satisfied, and that day has arrived. Discussion. Any discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is a discussion and consideration of the approval of a lease agreement for Ms. Smith Educational Services. Now, I apologize, the actual lease agreement got left out of your packet. It was updated on the e-packet, and you have the document at the table as well. It has been drafted and approved by the city attorney. This is for space, not the major floor space in the Needmore Center that is leased for events. This is part of the space that is connected to the kitchen, and I think there may be at least a kitchenette in this space. This space is not regularly used by the public. It largely is a vacant space that really is not ideal for leasing for events because of the way it's configured. The Parks and Rec Department has received an offer for an educational tutoring program to lease that space and to make some minor renovations, paying at a monthly rate of $500. I think it is a good opportunity to generate $6,000 on an asset right now that's not currently being used for anything and not generating any revenue, and will also provide some sprucing up of the space and also a presence in that building, which I think is also good. Discussion.
Me?
Alderman Vaughn.
Will these minor renovation be done before she move in?
Mr. Peters, do you want to speak to any planned renovations? And they are very minor, is my understanding, but she does plan to make some improvements.
We are, and also the realtor is going to make renovations to what they need for their child care at their cost.
Alderman Nguyen.
Okay. Council, do you see any potential problems as it relates to this agreement?
I do not. I think the city is fully protected by the lease.
Okay. Mrs. Naya Smith, I see that you're in attendance. Will you please come forward tonight? Good evening, Ms. Smith.
Good
I
evening.
want to say thank you so much for the work that you do on behalf of the children that you have at after school, that you support during summer school, much of with your own resources. You're what I call a trooper, the cheerleader of what all of our children need. I think the board members need to know that when our students don't graduate from Starkville High, that you have a program and that you make sure that they receive some type of diploma through our state. And I think it's important that the board members know that. And I know that you were too shy to tell them. Mayor, members of the board, having said that, I move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve of the proposed lease agreement for Ms. Smith Educational Services Incorporated to lease the unused side of the Needmore Center for an after-school program as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
It is.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, I do not.
Discussion. Alderman Mayor.
Ms. Smith, thank you. I'm going to vote against this tonight, not because I'm voting against you. I just don't think the city needs to be in the rental business for a for-profit entity. I think we have commercial space available, and we have residents that own commercial space that make their living off renting that commercial space. And to me, I don't think as the city, we need to be in that business, but that's just
We
me
are a
personally.
nonprofit. We are a nonprofit. We do have our 501c3. The tuition that is collected for the kids goes directly back into them. We provide all their books, their binders, the materials that they need. We provide the children that are in our alternate route program. We put them through private school. We give them a huge graduation that the mayor and Alderman Vaughn, Vice Mayor Perkins has attended before.
You are charging the individual students, though, is that
Yes,
correct?
and their finances that they have goes directly back into them, and into their educational needs.
All right, and Ms. Smith, I was a little slow on the gavel that time, but I think it was helpful information. In the future, unless a board member yields to you, you cannot speak during this portion of the meeting. That's okay.
That's all right.
Further discussion?
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Ms. Smith, is this going to be like just after school type?
Yes, after school, we pick the children up from school and we bring them to the center and help them with their homework. During the day, we attend any meetings that the kids have as far as parent-teacher conferences, IEP meetings, TST meetings. We do take time to go into the schools to have lunch with them and to read with them. Some of our students who are special needs, we go into their classrooms to help monitor and help the transition from an old teacher to a new teacher. And we also work with our alternate route kids who have not graduated, and we put them through private school so that they can graduate with a high school diploma. So far, we've graduated 33 children that are either working full-time and or in college.
How many square feet and how many kids are you expecting to have participate?
I don't know how many square feet the building is. That is something that we were working out because the information has kind of been shuffled around or lost because it has not been used for so long. But as of right now, we have 60 children on our roster.
And are they all there at one time? Are they just in and out at various times, I guess?
We have them after school until 6 o'clock. Parents do come pick their kids up, some a little earlier. Those that get there earlier, the K4 kids, K5 gets to the building a little after 3 o'clock, and their parents pick them up anywhere between 4:30 and 5. Our older kids, because they get out of school later, they are there till 6. Our kids that are younger that are there till 6 is because they are having challenges in either reading, writing, or math, and we take time to do one-on-one coaching with them, as well as different reading prompts to help them.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, is this something that we've advertised or something, or how did this come about?
It came about, no, it's not a space we've advertised. It came about because Ms. Smith approached the parks and asked if there was space available. And this space, I tried to explain this in the introduction. I don't know if I explained it well enough. This is a portion of the Need More Center that's really just kind of a leftover room. It doesn't really fit to do much else with it. I think not only is it an opportunity to allow it to generate some revenue, but I think this is good community-based programming for our parks, and it's a good opportunity to generate some activity in that right now a space that's totally dormant and is wasting. Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Saying none. All those in favor of Alderman Wynn's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? By a vote of 5 in favor of 1 against, this motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Thank you.
The next matter you have before you is the consideration and approval to expand the job duties of Vicki Hampton to assist the boards and commissions and to provide administrative support to Mayor Wiseman and Vice Mayor Roy A. Perkins. Let me back all the way up on this one. This has become much, much more controversial than, frankly, I ever expected it to become. And the origin of this goes back to about a month ago. Y'all were elected not to fill the former executive administrative assistant to community development and boards and commission position. Now, that was a position that had lots of duties and responsibilities in it. In fact, that position had so many duties and responsibilities in it that it was the highest graded administrative assistant position that we had in the city. That was the only grade 10 administrative assistant position that we had citywide, and deservedly so. When you look at everything that was in that position, it was a grade 10. Now, I will acknowledge that even though I didn't speak up at the time, I would have preferred that position to be filled. I talked with several of you. You shared reasons and that you thought there was an opportunity to save a $39,000 salary plus the benefits of the position. I see things from a different perspective because I am here every day. And I had some concern about what happens when you take that responsibility out of City Hall. And the reality is the responsibility remains. So the task falls to me to make sure that the work gets done. Now, truthfully, there's no way that you can eliminate an FTE that touches all of the responsibilities that position did and have all of those responsibilities fulfilled in the same manner that they were before. But it is possible, and we must make sure that the minimum requirements of that position, things that we are responsible for statutorily or as a day-to-day function of the job we do, those responsibilities have to be met. So the way that I propose meeting those is through a combination of the next two proposals. The first is the boards and commissions piece of that position. The former position that we didn't fill was served as an administrative assistant, full stop to all boards and commissions. And that, in addition to having responsibility for providing research, social media, correspondence, any other needs that those committees might call upon that person for. Admittedly, those committees are not regularly calling upon that person for those types of activities. The critical task that had to be fulfilled and has to be fulfilled no matter what is the compliance task. That is making sure those are all public bodies. And that is making sure that when they have a meeting, it's properly noticed, minutes are taken, and a proper file is kept of those minutes so that when we get public records requests, they are in order. Because the reality is if they are not, we are responsible for them not being. So what I did with that piece of it, what I would like to do is I would like for my assistant to take on the compliance role associated with those boards and commissions, so that there is somebody in an accountability position to make sure when a meeting is held, it's noticed as it's supposed to be noticed. On the back end, there were minutes taken and they're cataloged where they need to be taken. That is a very important position, and when it's not done right, we all bear responsibility, but first and foremost, I bear responsibility. So that is one of the reasons that I would like those duties to reside with my assistant. I want someone who's in close proximity to me. The other reason is over the course of the past several months, as I have worked with my assistant, Vicki Hampton, I have been exposed to the competencies that she has, and I have a great deal of confidence in her competencies. She is very well educated, holds a master's degree, and she is a 20-year professional, has worked for over 20 years as a professional assisting various people and bodies. So proximity and her unique skills and abilities lead me to say, if I've got to reorganize and I want to put that task somewhere else, I would like for her to be the person that is responsible for that task. In addition to that, the position also carries with it the responsibilities to provide administrative assistance to the vice mayor. This, again, is something that I think makes sense. As has been noted, the major duty of the vice mayor is to serve as the mayor in my absence. And every time I leave town, the vice mayor and I have a conversation about it. We talk about what the protocol will be and how we will manage anything that arises in the city when I am not physically here. It makes a lot of sense to me as we are reassigning duties for the same person who is a bridge oftentimes between me and the 11 department heads of the city to be in a capacity to be that bridge for the vice mayor in my absence. And so that is a duty that's added as well to the position. And what I'm doing with the old position is I am taking the essential pieces of the old position and I am assigning them somewhere else because I think the essential pieces absolutely need to be assigned somewhere else. Otherwise, things get missed and things don't get done. Now, the thing that has caused a great amount of controversy is the proposed change in rate of pay for the position. The position of my administrative assistant currently serves two people that are here on a full-time basis, the city engineer and me. And in doing that, the complex parts of that task currently are serving those 11 department heads and, of course, interfacing with the general public as the mayor's office does on a regular and frequent basis. That position, when you read the job description as it is a borderline grade 8. When you add the additional duties of the compliance role with boards and commissions, I think it is undoubtedly a grade 9. So that takes the position from $28,000 to $35,000. And if you read the full job description, everything that encompasses with it, and you compare that as a matter of internal equity with our other department heads, I think you will have no doubt that position is a grade 9 when you add those duties to it. So that is the rationale behind why I have proposed it to you. And also you'll see the next item which relates to this, because again we're breaking apart duties of what was once one full-time position, is the previous position that wasn't filled provided administrative support to the Board of Aldermen. I am recommending that our intern in the clerk's office fulfill that role. I am not recommending that our intern in the clerk's office fulfill that role to the same extent that the former position did. That would be an unfair request. The former position was responsible lock, stock, and barrel for providing full service administrative support to the Board of Aldermen, including scheduling, travel requests, correspondence, social media, and any other administrative duties that you might call upon her to fulfill. That is a very, very onerous task to undertake for 7 elected officials. What I am requesting with respect to the intern position is that all of us are going to have to be a little bit eliminating a full-time employee. I've asked the Community Development Department to absorb the administrative services that they were being provided. They're not getting additional support for that. The Board of Aldermen's administrative support would be limited under this model to scheduling and travel. And the recommendation is a 15% increase in the rate of pay for the intern. So, I understand that reasonable minds may disagree, And making employment decisions is one of those areas that provides a lot of opportunity for disagreement. But I have tried since the beginning of this process to be a team player. I did not resist when you didn't fill the position that we lost, and I don't regret that decision. I guess what I'm asking in return is the benefit of the doubt that the way that I am trying to reorganize these positions is a rational way of doing it, even if you may disagree with how it's organized, and furthermore, maybe offer me some administrative deference that I am the person that has to make sure this all works at the end of the day, and when it's not right, the ultimate person that's there for accountability is me. Discussion.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
Alderman Maynard had actually raised his hand while I was
Okay.
speaking. You'll be next.
Mayor, I'd like to make a slight adjustment to this proposal. If it pleases the board, I would like to eliminate the and Vice Mayor Roy A. Perkins from that responsibility of Ms. Hampton, and insert in there Community Development Director. I think that's the one area that has been left out, that Ms. Carlisle also served as the admin for Community Development Director. I think if we're asking Ms. Hampton to take on boards and commissions and that part of the job that Ms. Carlisle had, I certainly don't have a problem adjusting the salary to the salary that you've recommended. So with that, I would make a motion to consider the approval to expand the job duties of Vicki Hampton to assist the boards and commissions and provide administrative support to the Mayor Parker Wiseman and to Community Development Director Buddy, with added duties to constitute and expand duties, corresponding promotional increase of 22.4% effective August 17th, 2016.
All right, motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of expanding the job duties of Vicki Hampton to assist the boards and commissions and to provide administrative support to Mayor Parker Wiseman and Community Development Director Buddy Sanders, with added duties to constitute an expansion of duties and a corresponding promotional increase of 22.4% effective August 17, 2016, as presented, or otherwise as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Discussion. Alderman Wynn.
Yes. Mayor, let me say this. The previous administrative assistant that we had when I first took office on the board until last year in July, and her title was administrative assistant to the mayor and all 7 members of the board. Her salary was listed at $27,643.20. So let me speak to what the mayor just told you all initially, because he was adding the vice mayor. And of course, the language, the way it's written on the agenda, says that she'll provide administrative assistant to the mayor and the vice mayor. She is already the mayor's administrative assistant. I read in the statement when we first started. Let me say this. I don't know any duties that the vice mayor or Alderman Perkins nothing has changed. We are very far into our term. Our terms will expire in June of next year. All of us have used the same person thus far, and it has worked out. And I'm glad that Alderman Maynard has put that in there, because I was very concerned. Mayor, I wanted to take this into executive session because I do have some great concerns about the person in that role. I think that you know that I'm in the building daily, often, and I've seen some things that I'm very concerned about that the other aldermen may not be aware of. But I will not take it into executive session. I will just go ahead and render my vote. I yield the floor at this time.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman Little.
Mr. Mayor, how are you, as far as that amendment to the motion and her capabilities of taking that additional task on, that's a little different than what was presented.
She can do it. I haven't discussed it with her yet, but I feel confident she can do it.
One more step. Mayor, let me say this too. With her taking on these other assignments, if this passes tonight, Mrs. Hampton will need to be at her desk more because she's away from her desk a lot. And that means that a lot of our telephone calls are not being answered. And one agency here in town has been picking up our telephone calls. Last month, I intercepted a call because someone called me. No one was at the desk. However, Ms. Hampton was at work and it was in the early mornings of the hours. I ended up intercepting that call, ended up contacting our community development director.
We're discussing job performance.
Okay.
All right.
We don't need to still.
Do you want to make a motion to go into closed session, or do you want to?
I move to go into closed session regarding the personnel matter.
Motion has been made to go into closed session to determine whether there's a need for an executive session. Do I need a second on this one?
Okay.
All right, so we immediately go into closed session. At this time, I'll ask the public to temporarily clear the premises so the board can begin closed session deliberation. And we don't have.
We're not asking.
Yeah, it just takes a motion, but you have to vote to go into closed
And
session.
does it require a simple majority?
Simple majority.
All right, it will require a simple majority vote. We are not yet in closed session. There is no second that is implicated. So at this time.
I withdraw my motion to go into closed session.
All right, we have no motion pending to go into closed session. Could someone please make sure the public knows that we are back in open session? The board resumes its open session. Alderman Nguyen, you still have the floor, but I would encourage you.
I yield the floor at this time. I've spoken to this measure, and I yield the floor at this time.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Maynard's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 1 against, this motion passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of approval to expand the job duties. All right, and this one will need to change slightly. I guess because the vice mayor would need to be added to this one. I can't remember, did we have him specifically pulled out of this one?
It said Board of Aldermen.
It says Board of Aldermen, so it doesn't need to be changed. Alderman Vaughn has made a motion to approve of expanding the job duties of Joanna Beelan to provide administrative support to the Board of Aldermen with added duties to constitute an expansion of duties and corresponding increase of 15% effective August 17, 2016 as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. All right, the next matter before you is the consideration of approval of the salary adjustment and job title change motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve of a salary adjustment and job title change from administrative assistant to the fire chief, LaShonda Malone, to executive administrative assistant, effective August 17, 2016. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
I will offer some comments because I think this matter does need to be thoroughly explained. And that is, this is both an internal equity matter and a housekeeping matter. And from an internal equity standpoint, when you look at the job description as it is written, there is no question, as compared with other positions in the city, that this is a grade 9 executive administrative assistant position. Currently, that job description is very similar to the job description of our two other largest departments, administrative assistants in city government, and that is Starkville Utilities and the Starkville Police Department. Now that gets us to the housekeeping matter, which is how we got here. The only thing that makes this awkward is this is an existing employee. If Miss Malone had just left, I don't think there would be any issue at all with this job description and this rate of pay that's listed. But the reality is Miss Malone is ironically in a disadvantaged position because of her loyalty to the city. Miss Malone has been with us for 23 years. And if you read her current job description, it will give you some insight as to just how long ago the duties of that position were evaluated and just how much they've changed. I think it is worthwhile to read it because I was somewhat shocked. This is a rare occurrence that you have when you have a long-time employee, a long-term employee who comes to work consistently, does her job, improves, and grows the position. You look up at some point and you've got a job description that no longer fits what that person does anymore. So the job description currently for that position is to perform general clerical tasks, included but not limited to telephone reception, filing, typing, at least 50 words per minute, bookkeeping, and general office management work and other related tasks as assigned. A high school diploma or state-recognized equivalent with some secretarial science or business education training and or job experience. Computer skills are necessary, must have the ability to perform the essential job functions. An associate degree in business education or secretarial science with some responsible experience as secretary, bookkeeper, or office clerk. That's it. And it comes from a different era. And the reality is, in the 23 years that Ms. Malone has been with us, she not only has furthered her own education, she also has become an indispensable asset to the fire department. She has undergone many administrative changes in that time, and she is in many ways the glue that holds the whole place together. I have seen two different chiefs rely upon her, and I can tell you that they have both relied heavily upon her because they trust her. They trust her character and they trust her ability. So what you have is you have the job description that the chief and the human resources director have written to describe what Ms. Malone actually does now. And when you read that job description and when you compare it with our other large department administrative assistants and the duties that they are assigned, I believe there is no doubt that is a grade 9 position and it is justified. And this will also serve to help us at whatever point in the future Ms. Malone decides to retire. We will have an accurate job description that is what the position actually is. In the meantime, the only fair thing to do is to recognize that if that's what the job actually is, then we should compensate Ms. Malone for what the job actually is. Discussion. Alderman Wynn.
Chief Yarborough, will you please come forward? Let me say this. Good afternoon. Chief Yarborough, let me say this because I want it on record, as I would if you're going to come again and again, whether this measure passes or not. And I want to state this to the members of the public. You now have a total of 21 officers that are not making $10 an hour. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Having said that, I want to make this known. You have not asked the board for a raise for your firemen. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, right now.
Okay. Let me go over that question again. You have not asked the Board of Aldermen for a raise for a total of now 21 firemen that make less than $10 an hour. Is that correct?
No.
Okay, so you have not asked us. But you are asking tonight, and it has your authorization, your name is on it, for a raise of 11-point-something% for a total of $4,910. Can you tell the board why you chose to ask for that amount of money for your administrative assistant, but yet you didn't bring any monies forward for the firemen in your department. And by the way, while you're standing tonight, do you have your procedural plan? It is for your firemen? That progress plan that you all have?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you, when will you be presenting that to the board?
Next board meeting, I think.
Yeah, and
Next board meeting.
And let me say this to you, Chief. You know, last time you stood, you were going to have it soon, and you keep on saying that you're going to have it. Let me say this. I'm about to lose faith and confidence in you as it relates to that progression plan because you haven't brought it forward yet. I'm about to lose confidence in you. You haven't asked for you guys any money. Tonight, it took me to put this on the agenda, and I don't know where it's going to go to tonight, but I'm going to ask the board members to support me in asking for your guys that suit up and are the first responders that would go in harm's way for any of us. Since I've been serving on the board, some of them arrived at Alderman Little's house back probably about 3 years ago. So I guess I'm being hard on you because our city can't understand why a chief didn't come forward and ask for some money for his guys. Let me ask you this. One question, I'm going to let you go. How will you address morale with your guys when you got to look them in the face and you came to the board and probably got this raise for your administrative assistant, but you didn't ask for anything for them?
I don't know when I said this. As far as the morale right now is great.
Okay. Can I tell you something?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Actually, some of your guys spoke to Alderman Little at the gym about their pay. So I just thought that you might like to know that. So you might say it's great, but I want to let you know that they've spoke to Alderman Little.
Yes, ma'am.
As recently as last week. At this time, will you please take your seat?
Yes,
Alderman Wynn, do you yield?
Yes, I do.
All right, I've got Walker, then Mayor. Alderman Walker.
First of all, I would like to say thank you for all the firemen who work very hard at their job. There's no question we have some pay inequity all over the city, and I don't believe that's in question. I also believe that, Chief, along with this board, we have approved that beginning, is it next October, not the coming October, but next July, that no worker in the city will be making less than $10 an hour. Yes, there are 21 firefighters. There are also a number of street department workers. There are also a number of sanitation workers who make less than that. And at this time, to raise everybody up takes a little bit more time and a little more planning to do that. That is my apology on behalf of the city that we can't give everybody immediately the raises and the money that they clearly deserve and earn. But I also do believe that when you look at the job descriptions that has been described here and the work that Ms. LaShonda does in the fire department, I believe that this is an opportunity while we're waiting for those $10 an hour jobs to be there, and along with all the other salary adjustments to be made, that this is a reasonable and justifiable position change. And I know it sounds like a long time to wait another year from now when you get that raise, but know that it's coming. And if there's an opportunity to get that progression plan and have those workers move up, it is in my opinion that we should do everything we can to make sure that everybody in the city is paid a fair and just wage. I yield.
All right, I got Maynard, then Little.
And I agree as well. I think when you look back, this board has probably done more for the pay of the city employees than many of the previous boards. With the progression plans for fire, sanitation, and street department coming forward in the next meeting, I believe that will give us another step forward in achieving more equitable pay and more progression opportunities for every employee in this city. So I don't want that to go unsaid. Thank you, Mayor.
Alderman Little.
Alderman Walker and the mayor both spoke about some inequities, and I think we've seen those from top to bottom, and I think this is something that's going to need to be looked at because there are inequities, as we saw recently with our code enforcement officer that recently left for another higher paying job. We've had our city engineer trying to hire some road supervisors, and he can't get an adequate pool of applicants because the pay is just not there. And I'm concerned that the board has begun cherry-picking positions throughout the city and bumping them as we get requested without doing a thorough backing up and looking from top to bottom at the discrepancies or disparities between some of these salaries. They're easy to find if you start looking. And as we're going through the budget, looking, I think, but piecemealing these things, I don't think this is the time to be doing that. And I'm wondering who's going to be next. You know, Chief, are you going to be next for Donald Lott? You know, I mean, where's it stop? I don't think this is the time to be doing that. And we need to look at it from the broad spectrum and look at everyone's and try to address them all, but not piecemealing, cherry picking these positions and doing it the way we've been doing it. So with all due respect, Chief, I will not be able to support this tonight. And I'm not saying she does not deserve it. And I appreciate her tenure, 22 years she's been here. But I just don't like the way we're doing these, cherry picking these salary increases. Thank you.
Alderman Wynn.
Mayor, let me state this, and I will yield the floor on this. For public information, the board members supported pay raises for the municipal clerk females over there in that office. So I think that you need to know that, and that was just recently, maybe about 2-3 months ago. Their salaries were adjusted to meet those of our deputy clerks in our city clerk's office. And let me say this, our city clerk, deputy clerks handle all monies for the city, but in municipal court, they only handle the monies for municipal court. And let me state what one alderman said, and I'm going to put this in quote. I was over there on a Friday, and those women over there were crying because one of them had applied for a job over there at the city clerk office, and she didn't get it, and they don't make the same amount of money, end quote. The board adjusted their salaries as they were over there at the city clerk's office. So you all need to know that cherry picking is going on, and tonight, it come a time as a Board of Aldermen member, you have to stand by yourself when you believe in what you're doing is right. Yes, we have adjusted their pay. It will take effect next year in July. It will come in on the budget. Next year in July, what about when you're making $8 and you're dropping off a hot garbage truck in the summertime and our firemen suiting up in that gear? And Chief, you know what? That gear is nothing to play with because you know that I tried it on last year. So it saddens me that we're at this point with our city regarding these pay raises and we're cherry picking. And let me say this, no male has received a pay raise yet. They've all been females. I yield the floor at this time.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of whose motion was it? Alderman Vaughn's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against, this motion passes. And we haven't cut enough of this agenda down, but I'll just be honest, I need a break. So we've been here for a little over an hour and 45 minutes. Without objection, I'm going to take us into a brief recess. Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none? Moving to a brief recess. Meeting will now come back to order. The next matter you have before you is consideration of a resolution amending the resolutions adopted by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi on June 7th, 2016.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, thank you very much. To our honorable mayor, members of this Board of Aldermen, our city attorney, to my distinguished colleague and member of the bar, Mr. Honorable Chris Latimer, our police chief, Mr. R. Frank Nichols, police officers, and to all of you, good evening again. Before us for consideration and approval tonight on the agenda next is a consideration of a resolution amending the resolution adopted by the mayor and the board for issuance of bonds for the renovation of the old city hall, one for $3 million and one for $2.4. And the next matter is going to be for consideration of accepting the base bid from Weathers Construction for the renovation project. Much has been discussed and said tonight, but this is the moment that I've been waiting for. I've been a member of this board since July 6th of 1993, and it's been in excess of 23 years. And the moment that I've been waiting for is this a housing facility for our Starkville Police Department. This project is about to become a reality. We have endeavored to provide the Starkville Police Department with an exemplary and a first-class facility. This process has been a very long and tedious road and journey. I have been present and have served as a member of the Board of Aldermen every step of the way during this very long and involved process. It is indeed a great privilege, pleasure, and honor for me to present the motions to this board tonight to bring this vital city matter to a conclusion. This renovated state-of-the-art facility will be an excellent asset to the Starkville Police Department and to our community. I encourage all of my colleagues to vote in the affirmative for both motions so that we can progressively move forward and put to rest the funding aspect of this project. In closing, I want to personally commend our mayor, Mayor Parker Wiseman. He's in his second term, for his support and leadership on this project. I have two colleagues of mine who have been working alongside me with the 6 terms that I have served. One is absent tonight, the gentleman from Warren, and he's in his second term. I want to thank him for all his efforts. You know, we need to commend each other for the work that we do as servants for the taxpayer. That is something that we should not take lightly. I want to commend the distinguished gentleman from Ward 7 who sits to my right, his second term. He's labored long and hard to help bring this project to a reality. Last but not least, and I'm going to have to commend my other 4 colleagues who are in their first term, and I'm going to start in numerical order. I want to commend the colleague from Ward 2, Ms. Wynn, for her efforts in helping make this project become a reality. The gentleman from Ward 3, who represents Ward 3, being Mr. Alderman David Little, for all his hard work, and first-term alderman, and want to thank him. Want to thank the gentleman from Ward 4, Mr. Jason Walker. He has been very supportive of this project, and want to thank him. And last but not least, our distinguished chairman of our budget committee. He, the man in charge of the money and in charge of the taxpayer's purse, and he works very hard. We have to, give all these colleagues the praise that they are due. Mr. Maynard, of course, all of you work real hard, the mayor, but Mr. Chairman, spend countless hours and, for overseeing all the money. So he's worked closely with this project, ensuring all of the figures in place, the budget. So we just want to thank everybody, because this is a team effort. This is not a one-person project. This is not the mayor's project, the vice mayor. It is all of our project, because we love this great city. And we just want to thank everybody involved, our architect, and just everybody. Don't want to leave anybody out. I want to thank the media for doing a great job. And we hope that you will give this project prime time coverage for all of the citizens and taxpayers of this great city, because we are just so excited and we are elated that this state-of-the-art facility is about to come. Mr. Mayor, I'm going to offer the first motion, and both of these motions, just for the information from my colleagues, have been reviewed and approved by the city attorney. And the second motion that we'll get to when I get proper recognition from the chair has been reviewed and blessed by our city attorney. So, Mr. Mayor, may I proceed with the first motion, please, sir?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of a resolution amending the resolutions adopted by the Mayor and Board of Aldermen of the City of Starkville, Mississippi on June 7, 2016, relating to the issuance and sale of general obligation public improvement bonds, Series 2016A, in the principal amount of $3 million, and relating to the issuance and sale of general obligation public improvement bonds, Series 2016B, in the principal amount of $2,400,000, both of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, both to raise money for the purpose of providing funds for acquiring, renovating, equipping, and furnishing of the old City Hall building and associated real and personal property, including without limitation to repair, patching, overlay, and striping of the building's parking lot located 101 East Lampkin Street in Starkville, Mississippi, to house and facilitate the operation of the Starkville Police Department in order to change the sale date for said bonds from July 7, 2016 and July 19, 2016 to September 6, 2016, and for related purposes. That's the first motion, Mr. Mayor.
And it's reduced to writing?
Yes, sir.
The motion has been reduced to writing, and the city clerk now has it. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Alderman Perkins' motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. It is unanimous. By a vote of 6 in favor with 0 against, motion passes.
Mr. Mayor, may I proceed?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the following. Number one, to accept the base bid from Weathers Construction, Inc. in the amount of $4,318,000 plus alternate number one, $75,000, and alternate number two, $85,000 for a contract amount of $4,478,000. Number two, to authorize the mayor to enter into a construction contract with Weathers Construction for the renovation of Old City Hall for use and occupancy by the Starkville Police Department. 3, that prior to the mayor's execution of the contract terms meet the approval of the city attorney. 4, that the contract be in the following form and incorporate the following documents with terms agreed upon by the city attorney: AIA document A101-2007, AIA document A201-2007, addendum number 1, rebid renovations of Starkville Police Department, August 8, 2016, and document 00800, supplementary conditions, modifications to the general conditions. And 5, that the contract documents specifically include a not to exceed total contract price of $4,478,000, that the contract commence no later than August 23, 2016, that it run for a term of 270 calendar days starting on the contract commencement date, and that it provide a liquidated damages provision of $250 per day if the project exceeds the 270-day schedule. I have it reduced, Mr. Mayor.
Motion has been reduced to writing. The city clerk now has it. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Discussion. Alderman Walker.
I just want to, again, echo what the Vice Mayor said earlier. I think this is finally a long time coming to have the PD in a position to have a first-class city for the city of Starkville. I also think it is a great day to renovate one of the largest and most expensive pieces of public infrastructure that the city owns and turn that into something that every citizen can be proud of when they ride by that building and know that it is going to be a first-class police department. With that being said, Mr. Mayor, if you could maybe update us just a little bit. I've had a few people have asked, why are we getting the $5.4 million bonds if it's only 4.4? And I've explained that answer to them, but if you would please clarify that for the public of why we still need the full 5.4 even though the construction price is essentially 4.5.
$5.4 million is the project budget. That includes everything. The very first cost that you'll pay on this project is you're going to pay approximately $150,000 to the attorneys and the bond underwriters for executing the transaction. And it is an involved process that carries a hefty price tag. And then you've also got in that some of the expenses that you've been paid over the past year. You have already paid the architect on this project approximately $230,000. That will be reimbursed to the general fund. And that's approximately 80% of his overall fees on the project, so you'll have an additional 20% to architect, and that includes engineering as well. He's paying his engineers out of that price. And then in addition to that, you'll have a $150,000 furniture, fixtures, and equipment budget. The construction contract will cover the physical building space. If we were to stop there, there would be no tables, no chairs, nothing but an empty building. So you have budgeted approximately $150,000 to fully furnish the building. And finally, you have a contingency built into the project. Because construction is uncertain, particularly a historic renovation such as this. They're about to go into that building and they are about to tear everything out of it. And nobody knows for sure what will be there until they do it. But that's why we pay the architect and the construction company the good money that we pay them. What we've got are excellent estimates as to what that's going to cost, and a bid which legally stakes the construction company to a price. But there are changes in conditions that could require change orders throughout the project. That contingency is there to make sure that you don't exceed the overall budget on the price. Because once you issue that $5.4 million, you have all of your funding in on the project. Gary, did I miss any major elements of the fund?
Thank you, Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Perkins' motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed? And it's unanimous. 6 in favor with none against. Congratulations, Chief. Congratulations, Mr. Schaefer. The next matter before you is the discussion and consideration of the request PP 16-13 for preliminary plat approval, subdividing and replatting 4 parcels into 5 lots located on the north side of Highway 12 West between Stark Road and Crossgate Street, with parcel numbers 103I-00-003, 103I-00-003.1, 103I-00-004, and 103H-00-016. Mr. Sanders, would you please introduce the matter?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Tonight, we have a preliminary plat to create 5 lots by Mike Rozier Construction, LLC. The request is for both preliminary plat and final plat approval for a Academy Sports project with a public street. And with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Haviland to go into the details.
As Mr. Sanders said, this is for preliminary and final plat approval. We've kind of gone through this before, but just to sort of locate or get you allocated where we're at. As you can see in the image to the left, Sweet Peppers Deli occupies these 2 lots currently, and AT&T is part of this bigger property, and a portion of their parking lot is part of this lot here. And then the new lot that's added to this preliminary final plat is a lot to the north. And just to explain how this will be divided up, Sweet Peppers will become its own lot, which is lot 3. AT&T would become its own lot, which is lot 2. Lot 1 would be where the Academy sports site would be with their parking. Lot 5 would be tied to lot 1, as it is the detention for the Academy site. And then there'd be a newly created lot 4 at the top that would be available for future retail growth. There is also a proposed right-of-way with a dedicated street, which would be an extension of Hollywood Boulevard, coming all the way down and coming out to Highway 12. The subdivision has a gross acreage of approximately 13.3 acres, total 5 lots. That one street has a varying right-of-way with a minimum width of 50 feet that will be dedicated as part of this plat. Utility easements are shown on the plat. All utility connections are currently available. As previously determined during the first 2 preliminary plat presentations, all parties that would be considered adversely affected property owners were involved in a previous sale of the subject property and therefore have been determined to not be adversely affected. As part of this, the Planning and Zoning Commission has suggested 3 or recommended 3 conditions, and then there has also been an additional 3 conditions that were added after the Planning and Zoning Commission.
And I may also add, is staff recommendation with condition number 2 that bond be submitted to city staff before the mayor and city staff signs the final plat. So if the Board of Aldermen so chooses to move forward with the preliminary final plat, the bond would need to be submitted to us and reviewed by the city attorney and city engineer and myself.
Questions or comments for Mr. Sanders and Mr. Hammond? Alderman Little.
Is the 200% customary, or what's the customary amount there?
It is, in this case, typically it would be 150% of improvements which have not been completed. Typically, the normal process is you will have a preliminary plat that is approved. The developer will put in the some of the infrastructure. And let's say you have something that is lacking, like a sidewalk or maybe a portion of the property they can't yet place a street on that section due to some kind of soil issue or weather issue. Well, then oftentimes a bonding amount of 150% would be required and accepted. In this case, it's unique in that none of the infrastructure will be in place before the final plat. And it is staff's recommendation that a 200% bond be in place for that reason.
Do you? Further discussion? Further discussion?
One more question. At what point does this new city road become city? Is there a certain time frame? Is it dedicated to the city?
Essentially, when it reaches a certain level of completion, the city engineer is satisfied with the construction.
Okay. I mean, I'm familiar with that in my neighborhood. When it gets to be phase 1, phase 2, when it gets to be 85%, the developer can, have it inspected by the city and hand it over. Is that what's governing this as far as the residential code?
I will have to refer that to
85%?
the city engineer.
Mr. Kemp, would you like to fill that?
Be happy to. Thank you for that question. The developer in this situation and Mr. Roger's here, so feel free to let me know if I can get off track here. One of the requirements with the lease with Academy Sports is that they require the local municipality, county governmental entity to be maintaining the roadway. They do not want a situation where it's still the responsibility of the developer to maintain the roadway. So we are departing somewhat from our subdivision ordinance requirements, which, as Buddy mentioned, requires an 85% of all the lots be built out and have received a completed certificate of occupancy. Sorry about that. In this situation, we're probably going to be in the 60 to 65% range. I can't remember the exact number, but we have one lot that will never be developed. And then there'll be one additional commercial lot to the north that is a future development lot. But what he is asking us to do is to take over the ownership and maintenance of the roadway after they complete the certificate of occupancy for the Academy Sports. And it will be lower than the 85% threshold.
Is that agreeable?
I think, it's something that the board will.
The reason I pose that question is, what if it's 18 months before that final lot is developed?
Yes, sir.
And if the Academy Sports is requiring their contract that it's got to be done within a 12-month frame, where does that leave them?
Well, after the Academy, I may not understand your question exactly, but after the Academy.
Mr. Rozier, could you come forward, please?
There's also provision in there that upon the commencement of development of the future commercial lot, that the developer, Mr. Rozier, has agreed to put up a bond for any damage done to the roadway abutting and adjoining that commercial lot, which is basically the northern portion of the Hollywood Boulevard. And he has been agreeable to that. That would protect the city's interest in lowering that threshold to some degree.
Mr. Rozier, what is can you tell the board what the agreement is as far as Academy Sports and what requirements as far as the roadways being turned over to the city?
In the lease of Academy Sports, it is required that within 12 months after they take occupancy, that the city would own the road, maintain the road, and be full responsible for the road. And then I think that is the reason that Edward has asked that we reduce this from 85 to 60%. The one lot that he's talking about that we cannot develop, that is the detention pond. So in a sense, it is developed. It's developed for detention pond. The lot to the north of us is the vacant lot that we hope to have future development. But I can't tell you whether it's going to be 1 year or 3 years. But we have to have the city take the responsibility and the ownership of the road and maintenance of the road within 12 months, or once it is final inspection with the city, which should be the same time that the C of O for Academy Sports is issued, or I cannot sign that lease.
Is city staff agreeable to doing that within 12 months? Have y'all worked that out?
We'll let them
Can someone respond to that?
I think the condition that's before the board tonight is to lower that threshold from basically when they get a CO for Academy, the Academy building, that the city would take over.
That's in that condition.
That is in that. That is in that.
That's no
I
longer
don't
an
know
issue.
which number of condition it is. Number 2.
It's gonna be 2.
Yes, staff recommended conditions number 2.
Yeah. And like I said, that is a departure from our ordinance, so it would need to be a board-approved variance in this situation, but it is a kind of a unique circumstance.
I agree.
And in addition to the mandate from Academy, the math just doesn't work really well when you have only 2 lots.
I agree. How does that 200% figure? Is that something that you?
Well, I reckon we can agree to disagree. That 200% based on our budget, and I'm assuming we're going by our budget that we sent you.
It's the engineer's estimate of probable cost. And that is based on a set of plans. It is customary, Alderman Little, to require, if you advance the final plat prior to the infrastructure approval, it has been our policy in the past to require a 200% bond. We have done that on 3 to 4 projects that I can think of just off the top of my head in the last 3 or 4 years.
And it's
going forward with the final plat prior to infrastructure is not the typical process. It's certainly allowed within our code, but there are some unknowns about going forward that you may or may not be able to accommodate if you just did 100 or 150% of the estimated cost.
But my question is, we gave you an estimated cost of, I believe, $617,000. So therefore, we're talking about a bond of about 1.234 million.
Right, that's correct.
Other than it cost me about $6,500 more for 150 to 200%. So therefore, we agree to disagree on it, but we are prepared to write the bond. We have the bond. I would have brought you the bond tonight, but we've been trying to get a performance agreement. This is a completion bond. It's not a performance bond like you're fixing to get on the police department. It is a completion bond. It is something that is not done by surety companies on a daily basis. So it is a very specialty type bond. We have to have an agreement. We got a sample of a performance agreement from Mr. Kemp 2 days ago, sent it to the agent, the security company, and the agreement says subdivision. This is not a subdivision, it's commercial development. We asked to have one word changed. Sent it back to Mr. Sanders, and we've been trying for 2 days to get that agreement back, and if I'd had it, I would have had you a bond here tonight. So that's where we are with the bond situation. Now, if that agreement changes and my surety company doesn't agree to it, then we've got to go back to the board. All we've asked for is change one word from subdivision to commercial development based off of your agreement that you used on a previous residential subdivision.
Mr. Rozier, we spoke briefly during the break a minute ago. That's the first time I've met you, but I enjoyed the visit, as brief as it was. We've heard some concerns from Mr. Sullivan and some of the other folks that live in the neighborhood as far as fencing, noise, and plantings and so forth. You mentioned, and I understand there's a utility easement through there, and they've got the underground wire, they got the transformers and underground utilities there on the backside of those properties, which poses another, as far as easements go, difficulties in adding fences. And I understand this is going to be public right of way once you turn it over and dedicate it to the city, that the city at that point is going to be responsible for maintaining the fence, any fencing that was to go up, which I think sets a precedent there. There's some other developments coming up, one in the Cotton District, and it wants to prohibit those folks from coming forward and asking for the same thing in a couple of weeks. That being said, you mentioned the possibility of working with the council on some sort of agreement, and correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, is possibly paying a linear foot allowance, such as $30 a linear foot for an 8-foot wooden fence for the back portion that would be on these folks' properties, the homeowners' properties, and they could have it installed, and you would be willing to pay up to that amount, which I've texted a fencing person here in town who's conveyed to me that 8-foot fence can be done. You can spend as much as you want on the fence, depending on the style, but $30 a foot should get you there. I would think that's a pretty good concession, and it allows these folks to put the fence on their property line and enjoy that fence themselves and work as a sound barrier there without having their 6-foot fence and then right there on city property that we're going to be ultimately responsible for down the road, because they look, after a few years, they age and weather, if you get 15 years, you've done something. But I think that's a pretty good concession in light of what we've heard here tonight. And as far as the planning in our code, I don't know that would apply in the city right-of-ways. Am I correct? Is that, did I hear you, did I understand you correctly?
If y'all would, let me expand on that just a little bit. As y'all know, Academy Sports has been on the table for over 2 years. We had our property under contract with a previous developer. That developer put a project together, and it didn't work. It wouldn't work for them. So we came in, and we resurrected a dead project. We kept Academy alive to come here to Starkville, to be an asset for this community, this city. In doing that, first thing we had to do was we had to buy some additional property to adjoin Highway 12 to separate our AT&T property from the Academy property to be in compliance with the ordinance of the city of Starkville, where a piece of property has to butt a public street to be able to get a building permit. It's nothing against, the city didn't cause this. We had to do that. The landowner that we had to buy it from kind of held us hostage. We had to pay $30 a square foot to get that driveway. That's additional money we absorbed. The city came in and at y'all's request.
How many square feet was that you
Sir?
bought? How many square feet was that you bought?
Jason, do you? About right at 10, a little bit less than 10,000 square feet. He bought it for $15 a square foot. We had to pay $30, but that's another subject. But we did that. That's additional money we had to buy. The street, the public street is there at the recommendation of the city. We didn't really want a public street. We wanted to keep everything private. The city, y'all have come to us, the city officials come to us, that we'd like to make this public. It would help us with our traffic. We designed the streets. The reason that we designed it where it is and why it's designed that way is it's got 2 stop signs, it's got several curbs in it, and it's not a drag strip. If you go back and look at it, you can see it. It's not a straight shot. We're doing it to try to slow traffic down, to prevent traffic speed to be at a very minimum. So therefore, we got additional costs in a public street to design it and build it to meet the city's requirements. And then, yes, we're asking for a bond because we want to go ahead and get the plat. So that's additional cost. My point is, it gets to a point in a project where the well is run dry, guys. I mean, it's just nothing else left there to get, and we're at that point. I spoke to Mr. Little during the break. We don't have room to put a fence on what will be the city right-of-way when y'all take the street over. There's utilities in there. If we did have to put a fence in that city right-of-way, every tree that's between the street and that subdivision would have to be taken down, be removed. We're trying to leave those. My proposal to Mr. Little was, I can understand the residents' concerns, is let's set aside $30 a linear foot for a fence. Let that property owner put it on their property. They've got a 6-foot fence there now. It is a 6-foot privacy fence there now. If they want to tear that down and put an 8-foot, let them do it. It gets it on their private property. You don't have one fence on the city property, another fence on private property, and dead man's land between it that nobody's going to maintain, and y'all don't take the maintenance of the fence 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. When it's deteriorated, the city's got to replace it. I'm asking the landowners to work with us on this. Let them put the fence on their property. We'll set aside $30 a linear foot. The landowner put the fence up, and at that time, we will pay them for, if they got 100 feet, we'll pay them for 100 feet. I see this, now, Mr. Latimer, you a lot smarter than I am. I see a way of doing this is we got 1,100 feet, $33,000. We take $33,000 and I give it to Mr. Sharp, my attorney, and he puts it in his escrow account. This gentleman gets his fence built. He releases that money to the landowner. That way, we're working together. And I think it benefits the city, it helps us as a developer, and it gives the landowner what he's looking for.
I appreciate you resurrecting this, what was dead in the water a few months ago. We didn't think it was ever going to get to fruition. We hope we do get it going forward tonight. And I think that's a very reasonable concession. And I think that helps get us to where we need to be tonight going forward. I appreciate your time. Thank you. Does any other board members have any questions while he's here?
Yes.
Alderman Walker.
Mr. Rozier, I think that is an interesting proposition. And first of all, I would like to thank you for that. And I would like to ask Coach Carter or Mr. Sullivan, does your community, does it have a homeowners association or anything like that? The question I have would be, my biggest concern that I have with this project and ask is not that I'm not sympathetic to what's happening in Cross Gates. I believe that if I lived there, yes, sir, I'd want a fence as well. My biggest concern is the precedent that it sets with this being in public right-of-way and ultimately being on city property that, he's right, after 10 or 12 years, it's going to be up to the city officials at that time to look to maintain that. I believe that if it were me as a homeowner, that I would want more control over that situation. I think if there can be an option where more control is given, and city attorney, based on just the brief discussion that's had so far, if there were to be a contract and the homeowners would agree to getting paid $30 a linear foot, whatever their linear feet are, and then essentially as an individual or as a neighborhood, hire a contractor to build the fence they want for probably that amount of money, or depending on what you want, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. Is that something that would be allowable per city process?
I think if you had 100% assent by the property owners that they were agreeable to that deal and they wanted to control that fence building on their own private land, then that would be agreeable because the same objective is made. If the fence is in the right of way, then of course it falls back on us.
So we've been having a sidebar since this notion of the $30 per linear foot was introduced, and this is just going to be stream of consciousness for a second because I've been trying to unpack it. So really, it strikes me as there's maybe two different options within that option. One is potentially messier, and that is to deal directly with the property owners, having the city set up, I guess, as a middle entity trying to negotiate construction easements. I think that's probably the way that you'd want to do it, is having one party build it through there. But at any rate, you're dealing with multiple property owners who are going to have different preferences, and that's always something difficult to deal with. The other potential option within that option is, my understanding is part of Mr. Rozier's concerns are the practicability of building the fence within the city right-of-way. For instance, our staff met with our utilities, and they seem pretty confident that the fence can fit, but you've also got AT&T there. And AT&T is difficult to deal with and not a party that answers directly to us. So another potential option, if the practicability is the main thing that's concerning them, is we could escrow it for the city to build that fence within the right-of-way with what's escrowed. Or you could do an option of either, recognizing that we can't work the details of all of this out on the table tonight. My biggest concern, if we took the 30 linear feet dealing with property owners and made that a condition of approval, then that gives us something very, very difficult to execute that is a condition of the project, and I think that's going to potentially cause a lot of delay. So if there's a way to potentially look at an either-or option where we've got a we've got a relatively fail-proof option that if all else fails, funds will be placed in escrow where the city would install the fence on city right-of-way. That's something our folks seem reasonably certain we could do.
I don't know that I can speak without somebody yielding me.
I'll yield to you.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Jason Sharp. I'm with Bernini Law Firm, and we represent DG Bellevue, the developer on this project. Obviously, we want to be good neighbors. We sat here and we listened to the concerns that were voiced by the citizens, and we understand that they're legitimate concerns. Our ask to the board would be, don't impose a condition on approval of the plat that we can't satisfy or that can't be otherwise satisfied. And so I think you raised some very valid concerns, which is it possible to construct a fence in that city right-of-way, and is it desirable to construct a fence in that city right-of-way? And I think those are both questions that I don't know that we're prepared to answer tonight. Certainly, the information I have is that the easements will not allow us to construct a fence within that right-of-way, but obviously, we're willing to work with the board and with the city to try and come up with a workable solution. So I would just ask that when you are setting a condition, be sure it's a condition that you set that can be satisfied.
City Attorney has a question.
Given that there's some concern about putting a condition on a final plat that may or may not be able to be met, why does the final plat have to go forward tonight? Why not just the preliminary plat?
Well, that and because of the timing of the project.
The timing of the project is number one. This project, we are this close to signing the lease. We got these little items that we got to work out. Academy is required in the lease that we turn this building over to them April the 12th. So time is of the essence. It's very short. The other issue, and just put it to you very plainly, is that we had to buy this property from Robert Rogers. And I'm just going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, he is not a very cooperative person to work with. We have bought property from him on 3 different occasions, and it's like pulling our teeth, and he kind of had us over a barrel, and he took advantage of it. And, his attorney verbally has agreed that he's going to sign this plat. I can't guarantee that. I think y'all had some dealings with him too, so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So therefore, instead of getting to the end of this project and having a problem, we would rather have this satisfied and solved at the beginning of the project, and if there's a problem, then we've got 8 months to address it.
I I suspect that latter issue is the real issue because the lease said you contingent on the final plat, right?
The lease is not contingent on the final plat.
So you just won't write your signature on
The
the
issue
page.
is Robert Rogers.
He's got to know before he closes on a lease that he doesn't have a plat problem.
That's right.
That's right, I understand.
Alderman Mayor.
Yes, sir. City Attorney, could the contingency of resolving the residence issues be placed on the certificate of occupancy so that all of this could go through and they had time to work out all those details in the next 12 to 18 months while they're building?
I think it could procedurally.
You want a little time to kind of grab something?
Sense of urgency.
Mr. Sharp?
I want city staff, I mean, they've got their hands up on that.
City planner just, Mr. Howland just maybe mentioned, what about just making it a condition of site plan approval?
They've already done infrastructure plan. They've got it kind of contingently approved based on tonight's outcome. But they still have to do site plan approval for the actual academy site, which is the large lot and the little detention lot. So could it be a condition of something applied to that?
I think y'all have discretion to do that.
So what is the condition? Is the condition to the satisfaction of the adjacent homeowners? Is the condition a cost per linear foot? What?
I think it gives us time to work that out.
Yeah, I think it would give us time to work with the neighborhood association and the developer for 100% of the property owners agreeing to.
All right, take a shot at putting that condition into words then.
But it wouldn't be a
What would
condition
give
for
you
tonight.
time and what would give you a trigger where if it hadn't been satisfied, then you would have the leverage to put the project on hold until it was?
Are you referring to at development review committee when the site plan is reviewed, or are you referring to tonight?
I'm referring to if you push it, the trigger to site plan review.
Site plan
How would you tee that up?
Essentially,
Think it through.
the applicant would be responsible for obtaining agreements from all the property owners to have their fence replaced or improved.
Or just the applicant would agree to the placement of a fence either on private or public right-of-way as part of the approval of the site plan.
But you still have to get the assent of the property owners. If it was
But if we
private
couldn't, then it
property.
would go to the public right-of-way. So it would be the other option. But the fence would be there, one way or the other. Just where it's actually physically located could be determined during the site plan.
I think,
Mayor, can I ask Jason Pepper, which is our civil engineer, that is working very, very close with the academy, come address with what you just done. We have a time frame. We have to work with the academy on every aspect of this project.
The site plan submittal will be Friday for this project. So that gives 2 days.
But that's not a practical cure.
No.
Now,
Well, the submittal, but the approval, I mean, it's for DRC the following week.
So we basically place the cost
The actual
per linear
fence,
foot,
could
escrow,
be-
and I think we got to mandate that
the
it's on
community
private
development
property.
department to resolve it to their satisfaction. Oh,
That's it.
one of the, I'm in agreement to pay $30 a foot if they put a fence up. I would much rather see this fence on private property.
Me as well.
Me too.
The other side of it is, I don't want to build a fence. I don't want the responsibility. If the landowner has a fence and it's a private fence, it's not a city ordinance that we're doing, we're trying to work with them. Let them decide what kind of fence they want, who's gonna build. They may want to build it themselves for $15 a foot and put $15 in their pocket. That's great, I don't care. I don't want the responsibility of it. I will pay $30 a foot. And, you know, I don't know the legal end of it to do it, but to me, I take $33,000 and put it in
all right, here's my big
escrow
shot.
account and let them issue a letter to the city building official. Yes, this is built. He gives it to Mr. Sharp. Sharp cuts Donnie Jones a check.
Sure.
We to try to keep it simple. Now, Jason, you know more than I do.
Mr. Latimer, to your point earlier, is it your contention that it would require the approval of every single landowner that was in the homeowners association, or was?
My thought, and we're all thinking on the fly here, is that it would take the assent of all of the landowners whose land was impacted by the fence.
My concern is if the only option is that the landowners all consent, then I'm afraid that we're going to have an unworkable, practically speaking, having tried to get lots of people to agree to a contract before. It's just an onerous process. Now, I understand where you're coming from on your side, and so if there is a fallback option, in addition to that option, then it may be something that is still workable. But if that's the only option, then I don't know that that's a practical solution.
Yeah.
All right, how about this? How about a condition that states $30 per linear foot for whatever the agreed upon length of the fence is placed in escrow to construct a fence either on private property or on public right-of-way by the city. So either we have construction easements and we're constructing that fence ultimately in backyards, or if that doesn't work, we're going to do what we said could be done to them, and we're going to find a way to construct it on public right-of-way. Which, if we're about to impose a condition upon them that they put it on public right-of-way, then we ought to be able to stand here and say, at a bare minimum, that's our fail-safe position. We can construct it on public right-of-way. Alderman Walker.
Mr. Sullivan, do you see it as a workable solution if $30 a linear foot for your piece of property, that you would be willing to, you and maybe with your neighbors or you individually, to find a contractor to build the fence that is per your specs, whether it turns out to be 8 feet or 10 feet or whatever material you choose? Is that something that you believe that you as an individual landowner would be willing to accept to meet the needs of trying to accommodate you and your family's concerns?
At least be concerned with the uniformity of it, as well as trying to get everybody to agree to it. It would satisfy me personally. I can't speak for all the other neighbors. That makes sense. You can have this guy has fence here, this guy has fence here, this guy. I don't know how that's going to look from the Academy Sports. You see, it's almost point of view looking back.
I think if it's on private property right there, I'm okay with it. If somebody on in your community decides they don't want a fence there, then I think that's okay. That's their choice. They may decide they want to be able to cross the street, get on the sidewalk, and not have to go to 12 to go to Academy Sports. I think that's choice. I like for individuals to be able to have that choice if they do. If it were me, I'd probably have a fence there. I'm with you. But I like that. I'm okay with that choice. And I think from a functional standpoint, I think having this fence ultimately be on your property and on private property is the best case scenario for all involved. It gives you more control and more design sensibility of what you want your fence to work, knowing that you have, call it starter money, to get the fence that you want. Coach Carter, do you feel like that would be satisfactory to you?
It would be to me. I would hope it would be able to. We can get one that's like the one on the other side. We can't be the middle person. Uniform all the way across.
Yes, sir. I mean, I think that, is there a homeowners, do y'all have a homeowners association? Yes. Okay, so that would probably be the group maybe to present this idea. So, Mr. Rozier, would it be possible for you or Mr. Sharp in the very near future, at your convenience, and when these folks could get their homeowners association, whether it's in person or have the attorney just draft something up and say, here's our proposal, is that something that could be acceptable? And then we'll let the lawyers work out how you functionally make that happen. From the landowners that are here tonight and you, it seems like we're getting close to finding a solution that works. The question is, how do you find the mechanism to make that work?
Is this for all the homes on Crossgate Street, or is it going to be?
Ones that touch the property.
Everything adjacent to the road.
Everything that's in Crossgate's adjacent. If I'm looking at Mr. Sanders or Mr. Hamlin, can you point on there where we would be talking about so everybody's clear? So we'd be talking about
The
from,
right-of-way quits touching the property lines of Crossgate's approximately right.
so that's approximately where the right-of-way, all the way down to,
This portion is a future possible retail site, and part of our code would require a buffer to be placed between that. because the
okay, so
property-
what you're really talking about is where that last lot line is, essentially from there directly south, essentially everything that lot that touches.
Just about the bottom of the screen is where lot 5 would pick up, which is the detention pond right here.
So somewhere in that, so it wouldn't, again, it wouldn't affect every homeowner in Crossgates, just the homeowners that have adjacent property that backs up to that right-of-way.
Looks like about a dozen lots.
12 or 13 lots, it looks like, is that about?
Can somebody count that? I want to put
I
that
can
in a
tell you.
condition.
Let's get an official count.
This one may want to be included.
Sure.
Move that one.
You want to include?
There are 12
Right there.
homes. There are 12 homes plus Walmart real estate according to the drawing that I received.
All right, count them. Let's count them right here.
Chad Ballard, Kristen Penny, Doris McReynolds, John McClendon, Lillian Wilkins, Edward Slaughter, Starkville Korean Church, Mike Sullivan, Greg Carter, Dale Brown, Gerald Salak, Derek Brantley,
Yeah, it's on another slide.
I guess that's what I'm saying right now, is let's, on this map, let's get a count where everybody feels like we're in agreement on what those need to be.
That's outside, that's going to be for future development.
But who owns that property? Which property owner owns?
One gentleman that spoke tonight owns the last property in the curve up there that's not shown on your drawing. There's other properties to the north of Chad Ballard and the North Shore. It's not on the drawing.
I can't read it on this. The large set of plans.
Mr. Pepper.
Daniel, if you wouldn't mind, could you point, the right-of-way ends, you can, if you just got your laser pointer, if you could just point, the right-of-way ends there. Continuing, it's in ordinance that we screen from there north once it's developed. That would be the end of the fence that would be along right-of-way.
Can you take Mr. Hamlin's pointer, Jason, and show me again where the fence would end?
There it is. Right there.
All right, so do we think there's one lot?
There's one owner here that's not just, cut off because of some other things that were necessary.
All right, well, let's just count going down. Can somebody?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can anybody read that number right there? 6.
528, 12, 12,
128.
12B. 28.
Okay, where was that?
This is 128.
That was right there. That was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. What is that?
9.
There might be a little bit of right away.
Well, there's another page and we've got some more. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Number 9, lot. Is that it?
That's it.
That one? That was number 11, or?
That's 9. This is 8.
So that's
No,
12.
so this is 12.
Right. Right, so that
12
12 would be,
and
12 would be
then-
the last one, right?
That would be part of the 13 right there.
So 13 would be affected?
Part, not by right of way. Right of way ends up here. So 12, 11 would be affected along right of way. This is a separate lot.
Would what we're calling lot 12, the one right there, that you got, would that be affected at all?
It's, right of way is not touching that line. It hits the corner of these.
That's included? I think so too. Would we be in agreement if we included those 12 lots?
12 lots.
That's right.
and but I think we counted part of that curb goes to there. So that lot, there's not a line shown, but we're including part of that curve, right? So that would include Mr. Breen's property. So,
Green's property sits, right, one house here, two houses here, three houses here, and this is Mr. Green right here. So there's still 3 more houses that would be impacted by this road.
but by ordinance, Mr. Havlin, if I'm correct, since that falls outside of the non-developed at this point, right?
Correct, and this one was developed, the buffer requirement would be along this line, all the way down to the right of way.
So if and when that part of the property develops, there would be required at that time for there to be a buffer as a part of it. Is that what we're saying? Mr. Rozier, is that your understanding as well? So if we could get those 12 lots and get to an agreement, knowing that then when that northern lot is developed, there will also be a buffer mandatory at that point in that whatever those lots to the north are. Mr. Pepper, are we on the same page?
Mr. City Attorney, if there's a way we can get this drafted to where they could put it in escrow, like I said, defer to the homeowners association, let you guys go back to your folks and sell those 12 homeowners. Economies of scale comes into play. If you can get it all done at one time by the same fencing guy, it all looks nice and uniform, but that's going to be up to you guys to sell it. I think he's being very reasonable and trying to find a happy medium to accommodate everybody here. And
You have an active homeowners association, don't you?
Now, all right, so is that the average price of the fencing?
I think it can vary, but you can dress them up as much as you want, you know what I'm saying? You know, you start putting copper tops on the 6-inch post. I think, you can dress them up as much as you'd like, but from the text I got a minute ago, it could be anywhere from 30 to 45 a foot, depending on how nice you wanted to make it.
That's installed. What about the removal of the existing fences there? How's that going to work?
There'd probably be some cost associated with that. That's new installation. But if a lot of folks have been over there 10, 12, 15 years, it's probably time to come down. They were probably looking to, there's going to be an improvement, I would think, for any of the residents if you've got an older deteriorated fence, and you'd have to be looking at that anyway in the near future. So I would think you'd get the bulk of the expense taken care of.
So we agree on the fence, and are we still, where are we at on the shrubs as far as the sound barrier?
I don't think city ordinance requires shrubs in the right of way. It does in a buffer. Am I correct?
It's not required in the right of way, it would require it in a buffer area such as.
Buffer areas to the north where Mr. Breen's property, it would be required. Now,
Are we looking, and we understand that you're looking to leave all the trees and growth that are along the back of there like it is, not cutting those down?
The undergrowth, we're gonna clean up.
Clean up.
But the trees that's in that right of way, we wanna leave. We're not gonna take any tree out. We do not absolutely have to.
All right, the city attorney's been drafted.
This may be
Good job.
inartful, but I think it hits the elements. The developer shall tender to the city in escrow the amount of funds necessary to construct an 8-foot tall fence at $30 a square foot.
Linear foot.
$30 per linear?
Yes.
Per linear foot along the western border of the final platted property abutting the 12 lots in Crossgate subdivision, abutting the right-of-way to the proposed extension of Hollywood Boulevard, and that the fence be placed on the affected lots or in city right-of-way contingent upon the approval of all affected lot owners.
And now that would encompass, I guess, the two public options. In that scenario, the city would ultimately be putting the fence in. We would either have construction easements and we would be putting a fence straight along the property owner's line, or
scratch to the or on public, and I'm good with it.
So you just want to leave it with the affected lots of the
Yes.
property owners?
Yes.
And so if they reject it, we're back to
That's
square
up,
one?
that's up to them. No, I mean,
Here's the
That's the
issue,
money.
though. If it's money going to a private party, it gets very, very complicated for the city.
Okay.
If we're the holder of an escrow account,
do we have to hold it?
Mr. Mayor, can I address that? Put the money in the escrow for the homeowners association. Let it be their responsibility. The city doesn't take responsibility.
can the
It's in-
homeowners association handle that?
I cannot answer
Could your firm handle that?
If the owners don't agree,
Okay.
Because
I would propose that,
The default is the city puts it.
Counsel?
but that's not what
I would propose that our firm handle it. We would hold the money in escrow, and if we want to designate Jason Pepper or another third party independent of the city as the person to determine when the fence is complete, we'll release it, and we can build that into the escrow agreement. That removes the funds from going to the city. It removes that concern, and hopefully will protect the homeowners in terms of if we have an independent third party.
And if a homeowner objects to kill the deal,
And why does it have to be all?
If he doesn't want a fence on his property, that's his responsibility.
So you'd offer,
People that are asking for fence will get a fence.
you'd offer each homeowner, would you offer them fence or cash?
No,
No.
no, sir.
Fence
If you
or
build a
nothing.
fence, I will give you $30 a foot. If you do not build a fence, you do not get the $30 a foot.
I don't know that we want
To make available, so it would just be to make available the option of having a fence.
They have an option to get a brand-new fence, 8 foot high, and $30 a foot, and I can guarantee you they can get them a nice fence built for $30 a foot.
That strikes me as clean.
And I would, the only other thing I would add is I would
It's not
say,
handled by-
so it's not in escrow
Not
for
suspense or nothing.
indefinitely. That, maybe you put some time limit on it, say, 2 years, 18 months, or 2 years from completion of certificate, that at that point, you either have a fence built or agree to build a fence within that time period to be able to get that money. Or at that point, the agreement's sort of off the table. Is that something that between you all and the neighborhood could get together to try to have a wins here where, one, I think it takes the city out of play where we don't need to be in the business of maintaining fences. Look how we maintain roads and everything else, all right? I think if you had that fence right there, you'd be disappointed in the city in a few years when it was time to repaint that fence. And that's what it puts it on you, but at the same time, it gives some level of protection that is clearly warranted in this case. And I think this has some working merit. Now, again, let the folks work out.
Meeting will now come back to order. Alderman Williams asked for the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. Mayor, members of the board, I have a motion that I will put on the table. Once I read the motion, council will actually read the number 1 that has been amended, and then I will start back after council has done that, okay? Preliminary plat 16-13. Move approval of the request PP-13. Okay. Preliminary plat 16-13. Move approval of the request PP 16-13 and FP 16-13. Approval with conditions for subdividing and replatting 4 parcels into 5 lots located on the north side of Highway 12 west between Stark Road and Crossgate Street with the following conditions. Council?
condition number 1, the developer shall tender to the Brunini Law Firm in escrow the amount of funds necessary to construct an 8-foot tall privacy fence at $30 per linear foot along the eastern border and on the 12 lots abutting the proposed extension of Hollywood Boulevard within 2 years of approval of the final plat, and that the developer shall comply with any and all landscape requirements contained in the city's landscape ordinance.
Okay. When infrastructure plans have been approved for construction, a pre-construction conference shall be held with appropriate city staff prior to the commencement of any construction activities at the site. 4, bond in the amount of 200% of the engineering cost estimate, which will be based on an approved set of infrastructure plans. The bond must meet the standards set forth in the City of Starkville subdivision ordinance and must meet the approval of the city attorney, city engineer, and community development director prior to the mayor signing the final plat. 5, when required improvements are complete, the applicant shall provide as-built drawings of all infrastructure improvements, water, sewer, storm drainage, roadways, sidewalks, etc., in AutoCAD format, as well as a paper copy that is signed and sealed by a licensed professional engineer, indicating that the improvements were installed under his or her responsible direction, and that the improvements conform to the approved construction plans, specifications, and the city ordinances. 6, approval to vary from the City of Starkville Code Ordinances, Chapter 98, Article 3, Section 98-54. Sidewalk requirements, which requires the developer construct 5-inch wide sidewalks on both sides of the all-new public streets. It is proposed to revise the requirement to build a 5-inch walk on both sides and 5 feet, walk on both sides, and allow the developer to construct a single 8 feet wide sidewalk on the proposed roadway due to physical constraints and practical usage. 7, approval to vary from the City of Starkville Code Ordinances, Chapter 98, Article 5, Section 98-3, paving and street construction, which requires the developer to provide a bond and maintain the public roadways as part of the subdivision until 80% of the lots have received a certificate of occupancy. It is proposed to revise 85% threshold to 60%, which would allow the developer to turn the public roadways over to the city for ownership and maintenance after the permanent certificate of occupancy is provided for construction on lot number 1. It is further required that upon commencement of future development of lot number 4, the developer or lot owner of record shall submit a bond or other city-approved surety for the repair and maintenance of the public street along the frontage of lot 4, and said bond shall cover the cost of all repairs and damage done to the city street during construction and development on lot number 4. 8, due to the receiving pipe and infrastructure for this subdivision being near capacity and its potential impacts to the Crossgate neighborhood, it will be required that upon future development of lot number 4, the developer shall be required to mitigate the excess stormwater runoff for 2, 10, 25, 50, and 100-year storm events, and not be allowed to increase the post-development runoff from lot number 4 for any of these storm events as compared to the pre-development runoff rate. Number 9, final one, leave existing trees and fill in areas with evergreen shrubs. That is my motion.
All right, and that motion has been reduced to writing.
Yes. Council, will
City
you add your
clerk has it. Without objection, I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, I do not.
Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion?
I just want to confirm verbally, Mr. Rozier, you good with this? Yeah. Thank you. Everyone?
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passed. The next matter you have before you is a discussion and consideration of request FP 16-13. Discussion.
The same conditions.
Right there.
You can't make a motion.
I know, I'm giving a recommendation.
So moved.
with the same condition.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of FP 16-13 for final plat approval, subdividing and replatting 4 parcels into 5 lots located on the north side of Highway 12 West between Stark Road and Crossgate Street, with parcel numbers 103I-00-003, 103I-00-003.1, 103I-00-004, and 103H-00-016 as presented, and with the same conditions as in the previous motion related to the plat. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion? Yes, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the matter? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter you have before you is the consideration of approval to increase the pay of all members of the fire department and of the Fire Department, Sanitation, Environmental Services Department, and Street Department, whose pay is below $10 per hour effective August 17, 2016. Discussion.
Okay, Mayor.
Alderman Wynn.
Actually, I also want to add in the water department in there also.
All right.
Okay.
We're in discussion.
Yes. And Joe, Mr. Clemens, will you please come down? Miss City Clerk, I'll need your assistance here. Will you pull up that document that I sent to you? Mayor, members of the board, several months ago, we brought forth and passed a measure that all city employees that were not receiving a hourly wage of $10 an hour, in July of next year, that would be implemented. After speaking with our city clerk on Friday, she confirmed to me that actually that this is something that our our budget could support, and as a matter of fact, that it was under budget. Ms. City Clerk, will you speak to those dollar amounts?
What I gave to Alderman Wynn was a budget for those departments ending at July 31st, 2016. I took the year-to-date activity, which is 10 months, which is 83.3% of the year, and projected it out. And the projection at the current rate of pay for the current number of people is less than the total budgeted for this year for the bottom line of personnel services.
Okay, thank you so much. So just for the record, Ms. City Clerk, this is something that our budget can support, and it doesn't place us over budget. Again, it's under budget, is that correct?
We are under budget in each department. I didn't calculate the number of employees and the gross salary.
Okay, but it is under budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay? I don't know where this is going, but I want to be on record that I have asked for these employees, all of them, that are under $10 an hour. I think it warrants our support, but I'm going to support it if I have to stand alone. Move approval to increase the pay for all firemen of the fire department, sanitation and environmental service employees, water and street department whose pay is below $10 an hour, effective Wednesday, August 17th, 2016.
Motion has been made by Alderman Wynn to approve of a pay increase for all members of the fire department, street department, water department, sanitation and environmental services department, and sanitation and environmental services department whose pay is below $10 per hour effective August 17th, 2016. Alderman Wynn, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Do I hear a second? Motion dies for lack of a second.
Thank you.
The next matter before you is the consideration of the appointment of Ken Moreland to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to appoint Kim Moreland to the Board of Adjustments and Appeals for Ward 1, a vacant term to end June 30th, 2018. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Wynn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? No, sir. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter you have before you is the consideration of setting public hearings for the proposed 2016 budget and 2016 millage rate. Alderman Maynard.
Mayor, I move approval that we set the public hearing for the proposed fiscal 2016 budget and 2016 millage rate to be held on September 6, 2016.
Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to set public hearings for the proposed fiscal year 2016 budget and 2016 tax millage rate to be held on September 6, 2016. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
And I think I would add to that and to instruct the city clerk to advertise that according to state statute.
All right, so the motion would be to approve of setting public hearings for the proposed fiscal year 2016 budget and 2016 tax millage rate to be held September 6, 2016, and to authorize the city clerk to advertise in accordance with state law. Yes, that's your motion, Alderman Maynard.
It is.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits? Discussion. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a consideration of approval for the travel for any alderman interested in attending the small town conference.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve of the travel for any alderman interested in attending the 2016 Small Town Conference in Natchez, Mississippi, from October 11th, 2016 through October 13th, 2016, with advanced travel not to exceed $750 each as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
It is.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is discussion and consideration of advertising. Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve of advertising the Director of Human Resources position in the Society of Human Resources Management online publication and extending the open date to September 15th as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that the motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter before you is a request for approval for Cody Burnett to participate in the educational
So
assistance
moved.
program. Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve of Cody Burnett participating in the educational assistance program for the fall semester of 2016 to take master's level courses in civil engineering with a total reimbursement cost not to exceed $2,108.70 as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
Yes, it is.
Do we hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter? Any discussion?
Maybe. We forgot one. Don't forget planning. We skipped over.
Well, no, we reordered the agenda.
Okay.
That was not in the
Okay.
reorder. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the
Move
agenda-
approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve of accepting the low quote from Welding Works in the amount of $7,500 for the Holtzinger curb and gutter project to be paid from Ward 4 discretionary funds as presented. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
And I would also like to tag that where it says discretionary funds and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with said contractor not to exceed 20 calendar days with a $100 per day liquidated damage penalty.
All right, Alderman Walker. Did I get a second on that already? Okay, so the Alderman Walker has made the following motion. Move to accept the low quote from Welding Works in the amount of $7,500 for the Holtzinger curb and gutter project to be paid from Ward 4 discretionary funds and authorize the mayor to execute a contract with said contractor not to exceed 20 calendar days with a $100 a day liquidated damages penalty. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval to accept the low quote from Stidham Construction. Alderman Vaughn has made a motion to accept the low quote from Stidham Construction in the amount of $25,893.50 for the Heritage Place Drainage Improvement Project to be paid from Ward 3 discretionary funds as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion? Yes, sir. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Walker. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the matter? Alderman Vaughn, you wish to speak?
No,
on the
sir.
matter? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is request for authorization to perform asphalt repairs and overlay on
So moved.
Daniel. Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve the performance of asphalt repairs and overlay on Daniels Drive at a cost not to exceed $7,000 with the funding for this project to come from Ward 2 discretionary funds as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for authorization to name Cadence Bank as the municipal depository.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve of naming Cadence Bank as the municipal depository for the city of Starkville as presented. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of the approval for Herman Peters.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve of Herman Peters attending the National Park and Recreation Convention October 3rd through 7th in St. Louis, Missouri, with advanced travel not to exceed $1,925 as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
All right, any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve William Pocup attending the Mississippi Park and Recreation Convention September 19th through
Mr.
24th.
Mayor, may I read, because this one needs
Yes.
modifying just a little. Move approval for William Pocup to attend the Mississippi Park and Recreation Convention September 18th through 22nd in Biloxi, Mississippi, with advanced travel not to exceed $850, with the funds coming from line number 001-550-501-220.
All right, Alderman Walker is passing me a writing of his motion. It has been read, reduced to writing without objection. I will not ask for it to be reread. Seeing none, do I hear a second? Second. Motion has been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to approve of the temporary pay increase per personnel policy for Fire Department employee Michael Edwards, who is assigned to the temporary position of acting sergeant. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of allowing Chief R. Frank Nichols to attend the 2016. Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to allow Chief R. Frank Nichols to attend the 2016 Southern Criminal Justice Association Conference on September 7th through 10th, 2016, as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Maynard. Alderman Vaughn, you wish to speak on the
No,
merits?
sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is request for authorization for Starkville Utilities to accept the motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to authorize Starkville Utilities to accept the lowest and best proposal by MDR Construction Incorporated and enter into an agreement for electric line construction and maintenance as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. Next matter on the agenda is request for approval for Starkville Utilities to sell three. Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve of Starkville Utilities selling 3/4 inch and 1 inch scrap water meters to Earl Sprayberry, submitter of the highest and best representative bid at the unit prices, with said approval expiring November 15, 2016, as presented. Alderman Walker, is that your motion? Alderman Little, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Saying none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is a discussion and consideration of travel and for Mr. Buddy Sanders.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Nguyen to approve of travel for Buddy Sanders to attend the Mississippi and Alabama chapters of the American Planning Association 2016 Fall Conference in Biloxi for training as the outreach chair for the Mississippi chapter, with cost not to exceed $650 as presented. Alderman Nguyen, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second? Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Nguyen, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is request for approval of the City of Starkville claims docket. Motion has been made by Alderman Maynard to approve of the City of Starkville claims docket for all departments, including the Starkville Utilities Department as of August 10th, 2016, for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2016, as presented. Alderman Maynard, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Maynard, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against, the motion passes. The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of the July 2016 financial statements of the City of Starkville. Motion's been made by Alderman Little to approve of the July 2016 financial statements of the City of Starkville, Mississippi, as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. The motion clearly passes. Alderman Little is asked to be recognized to speak on the approval of the best quote from Brislin Incorporated to purchase and install one new air conditioning unit to cool networking equipment. Alderman Little.
I would just like to make the change to R&F Comfort Systems and change the dollar amount to $5,500 as the quote is $54.58.
Okay.
I'm gonna change the motion in here. I can
All right.
request approval, move approval of, best quote from R&F Comfort Systems, purchase and installation of one new air conditioning unit to cool networking equipment. The cost of the purchase and installation will be $5,500.
All right, so the motion made by Alderman Little is to approve the lowest and best quote from, who was the vendor?
R&F Comfort Systems.
R&F Comfort Systems for purchase and installation of one new air conditioning unit to cool network equipment. The cost of the purchase and installation will be $5,500 as presented. Alderman Little, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Little, you wish to speak on the merits?
I talked with Joel about this, and they're gonna be adding, I think they're taking a PD server over here and actually bringing all the servers over.
That's right. Originally, we were gonna keep that equipment over there when the plan was to move to the front of the building and then move to the back. We found ourselves in a position where we have a whole rack of equipment, literally a 7-foot tall rack of equipment that we did not anticipate housing over here. So we're expanding into the adjoining storage area. So we'll need another cooling system because that equipment generates an enormous amount of heat. So the story behind this is that we sought a quote from Brislin because they were the original contractor on this at the advice of Rob Winklefleck. And then I contacted Chris and asked him if we needed to get multiple quotes as per usual. He recommended that we do that. We did that, and the quote from R&F came in lower. And then in discussions and during the department head meeting, we decided to present Brislin as the best quote because we have a current service agreement with them and we're under building warranty. But, it's the same equipment, it does the same thing. After seeking counsel with all, parties, that was the conclusion we came up with to present that motion. But, whichever party we go with, I'll be satisfied.
Yeah, now the downside of doing this is, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, it would not be covered under our service agreement with Brislin.
It's about a $3,000 savings, and it's nothing too involved. Putting one of these duct-free air conditioning units, and it would be, the installer would be the one that stands behind the warranty of the new unit going in.
Yeah, I don't think warranty is an issue on this new equipment. I just worry long-term, so on the maintenance side, and frankly, it's more convenient to have it all under one agreement, but that is not the end of the world if that's what y'all want to go with.
I think it's worth the $3,000 savings personally.
Further discussion.
May I be recognized?
Alderman Mayor.
Joel or City Attorney, does the installation of this equipment by another contractor in any way jeopardize or void our current warranty on this building if that contractor were to change the electrical configuration or cause a short in the system? If it's not the contractor that's under warranty with the building, is there any provision in that warranty that says if another contractor comes in, that warranty would be void?
Right, and Chris or Lisa may have to speak to the specifics of the warranty. My initial action was to reach out to Rob Winklepleg, the project manager for the construction, and his recommendation was to use Brislin, and he mentioned to avoid any entanglements with the building warranty. So as to specific provisions, I couldn't speak to that, but he seemed concerned that we avoid that.
I was asked that question this afternoon, and my answer was, I haven't seen the warranty.
Is there a warranty?
And I don't know that there is a warranty.
New construction warranty.
I'll be happy to look at it, but this issue came up about 3 o'clock today about not using Brislin and use somebody else. So I just hadn't seen the warranty.
How time sensitive is this, Joe?
Well, it can impact the start date of the construction or the demo on the old city hall, because we have to get, that gear still is over there and serving us over here. So we have to get that power and cooling in before we can move that gear over here.
So it needs to be done.
It needs to be done very quickly.
I don't care who does the work, but I do care if we're jeopardizing the warranty on the heating and cooling system for the rest of this building. If something that they do could void that warranty. That's my
Yeah,
concern.
that makes sense. We just don't have a definitive.
Do you
we don't
want
know sure if one
to-
exists.
Do you want to make a stair-step motion where you approve the lowest and the best unless the city attorney determines that it creates an issue with the warranty on the building? I mean, now that would give, that would set forth an automatic process where if the city attorney has concerns about the warranty, I would execute the agreement with Brislin under that process. But I'm going to rely on the city attorney's advice on the warranty.
Do you think a warranty could be produced to me tomorrow, Joel, if it exists?
That would have to come from Lisa.
It's in the office.
Okay. Yeah, I'd be happy to look at it.
That's reasonable.
Okay, so let me take a crack at how that would look. It'd be to approve the lowest and best quote from R&M, RFM.
RNF system.
RNF Comfort Systems at $5,400, provided that the city attorney opines that it would not threaten the existing warranty on the building. In the event that the city attorney believes it could threaten the existing building warranty, then award the best quote to Brislin in the amount of $8,200. Is that, City Clerk, can you get that? All right, so I'm gonna, it's convoluted enough, I'm gonna take one more crack at it. So, without objection, Alderman Little's motion would be revised to be as follows. To approve the lowest and best quote from, give me their name one more time.
RNF Comfort Systems.
RNF Comfort Systems for purchase and installation of a new air conditioning unit to cool networking equipment at a cost of $5,500 in the event that the city attorney opines that such installation would not threaten the existing warranty of the building. In the event that the city attorney opines that it could threaten the existing warranty of the building, the quote from Brislin at a cost of $8,200 will be deemed the best quote, and the mayor will be authorized to execute it. All right, is there any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that is the revised motion.
Second.
All right, did I have a second already? Okay, so we already got the second. That just changes the motion without objection. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes.
Thank you.
The next matter on the agenda is a request for approval of promotions in the fire department to fill vacant positions. Discussion.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Walker to approve of promotions in the fire department as presented. Alderman Walker, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Little. Alderman Walker, do you wish to speak on the merit?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. That exhausts the open session portion of the agenda. You do have matters for your potential consideration in executive session.
Motion to go in closed session.
All right, let me try to do this right now. Alderman Maynard's made a motion to go into closed session to determine whether there's a need for executive session. It does not require a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Motion clearly passes. At this time, I'll ask the public to clear the premises so the board can begin closed session deliberations to determine whether there is a need for an executive session.